Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Jim Cornette Experience, a bright, shining light of entertainment in a dark, dismal, plague-ridden world. And today on the program, Trump won't give up. NXT apparently has, and AEW might as well. It's the, well, this week was just a waste of time edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. And to join me in commiseration, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, the proprietor of the French Toast, Grab It and Go, and Jane Cargill's favorite podcaster, your friend and his, the great Brian Lass.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. A bit of a letdown for those big Jade Cargill fans this week. Wasn't that much action on AEW from good old Jade.
I've seen more action at the senior home when Bill Apter does his stand-up routine than I saw this week on television.
Or at the senior home when Vern goes on one of his killing rampages.
Well, now there's a lot of action there. I mean, you know, people can get hurt in situations like it when those 85 and 90-year-old former NCAA champions. Well, anyway, nevertheless, I'm slappy. Don't distract me. I won't even remember what the fuck I'm talking about here because we're recording later. The sun has gone down. You know, you remember when Michael Jackson and Elton John teamed up on that duet, Don't Let Your Sun Go Down on Me. The sun has gone down here. It's dark. Here in Louisville, Kentucky, we have never in the modern podcast era of the Experience or the Drive-Thru, have we recorded after dark? That's a question.
I don't think so. I mean, it's been getting dark earlier, obviously, because of the time of year, but I don't think so.
Well, yeah, but it's not dark at fucking 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're doing this late. It's my fault, partially.
We've ended when it's dark.
It's my fault.
We've ended when it's dark.
Well, sometimes that happens. When you go that long, you know, you go all night and go a little longer. Anyway, I delayed this because I had a surprise deck repair this week. I wasn't going to have this done, but my crew, Alf and Ralph, the Monroe brothers, my work crew that does the repairs and things around the castle here, they had a free week, and they called me up because something fell through, and I said, well, let's do the deck instead of waiting until the spring. I've had some rotten boards because it's a wooden deck here off the office. I'm in the East Wing, and the boards were rotten, and I've been looking at that nice composite decking material. It's so nice you can mop it. It's cleaner than slicker than a whistle, whatever. You've got me so frazzled I can't form a cogent simile. So I thought, all right, we're going to do this. Well, that necessitated they're having to work during the day, banging and pounding and drilling and all this stuff. So I said, Brian, we got to record at 5 o'clock, but that's still daylight. But then earlier today, your entrance music, if you ever do make a personal appearance anywhere besides the bank, your entrance music really ought to be, give me just a little more time, and our podcast will surely record. Brrr, give me just, because then you ask for another 45 more minutes. And did I ever tell you about when Ox Baker's greatest closing line of any wrestling program in history?
I'm not sure.
He goes 15 minutes Broadway with Cowboy Bob Ellis or somebody on Bruiser's TV show in Indianapolis, and Sam Miniker's doing the commentary live at ringside. He's got the live mic, and the bell rings, the time is up, and Sam's winding up the show, and Ox leans out and says, Sam, give me 35 more seconds. It was hilarious the way he said it. Not give me 5 more minutes like they usually in the case of a draw like that, but give me 35. So I was mentioning earlier that I'm tired because we're recording. It's already dark. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. I'm running a castle here. I've got shit going on. And I've had to watch bad wrestling and deal with the Monroe brothers and my shipment. Wherefore art my shipment that I've been waiting for since yesterday of the third printing of Behind the Curtain is still delayed somewhere in Chicago. So I got all kinds of things going on, and I've had time. I've had time, as you have in your day, for more things to go wrong than and for me to get more fed up with life in general in the course of today than when we usually record. So forgive me if I'm a little grumpier today, is what I'm saying to you. I'm usually so pleasant.
You are forgiven in advance.
So our update on politics real quick here in the United States of America. Our idiot, loser, whiny little bitch president still won't quit. He still will not admit that he lost the election. He will still... You want to laugh because he's going out like such a cartoon buffoon, except this is putting people in danger and people are going to die and all that shit. Because once again, for our foreign audience, our international fans and listeners, until this administration certifies that that Joe Biden is the president-elect, they don't get the security briefings and they don't get all the inside scoop on everything. And so that the transition team can do what transition means, go from one administration to another, transition in a smooth and efficient manner, which Biden and Obama bent over backwards to make sure that this dipshit and his band of merry pranksters would have everything they needed, which of course they disbanded, fired, gutted, and screwed up. But now this idiot, because he's got Nosferatu, his personal attorney, still filing frivolous lawsuits that are getting slapped down like a fly at a fucking barbecue in the summertime all over the country. He's hiding in the White House. He's hunkered down probably in the West Wing, surrounded by towers of Big Mac boxes, while Max Schreck, Esquire, goes out and does press conferences in front of dildo stores and landscaping places. And today, Brian, you saw this. Giuliani actually goes up there and this is on worldwide television. He's got a picture of a map of all the states that he says Trump is going to win as soon as they get him to throw out all their fucking votes. And with a straight face, he's sweating profusely. Now, I know it may have been warm with the TV lights, but there's women wearing makeup behind him. There's a guy wearing a suit. Everybody else seems to be comfortable. This motherfucker is sweating like a whore in church. And as he's pointing at all this shit and actually mouthing the words, he said these words. He said, "We've got plenty of evidence. I can't tell you what it is right now, but it's plenty to overturn the election." His fucking hair dye that he's touched himself up from that ghoulish gray that he has, his hair dye is running down both sides of it. He was melting. If somebody said it looked like an android leaking oil, except then if he had some type of mechanical brain, he wouldn't be fucking spouting off nonsense. He looks deranged now.
He is deranged.
Is somebody checking on Rudy Giuliani?
He's absolutely deranged now. I'm someone who has seen Rudy Giuliani since I was a kid on TV when he was the mayor of New York. He's always been a presence on TV up here. He's out of his mind now. He's complete. Even his daughter basically said that when she came out last week to speak up against him.
When you got that much liquid running down your face and he had his handkerchief, he was blotting the front of his face where he was sweating in his eyes, but he wasn't going to the side where the black streaks looking like Wahoo McDaniel with a chin lock on Ronnie Garvin in a hot fucking armory in the summertime in North Carolina. It's coming, and he won't blot that, or he could have seen the actual black ink running down his face, and everybody's making mockery of him. Donald Trump is still tweeting, well, our path to victory. And even the people close to him are saying, no, he doesn't think this is actually going to work because it's not going to work. But he's milking this long enough that he can still bilk his sucker supporters that he got screwed some kind of way. So his final middle finger to the United States of America, after fucking everything up for 4 years and being an embarrassment and a source of disgrace and shame for our country around the world, and actually screwing everything up here in this country up to and including people dying because he couldn't figure his shit out. And he was too fucking stubborn to tell his hillbilly fucking voters that they were stupid sucker idiots and they should be listening to the doctors. Don't listen to me because I'm a liar. He couldn't even come clean then. So now he's on his last middle finger on the way out is, I'm going to make people not trust the fucking election and fuck with Biden just so that they'll continue to support me as I try to bilk them for money to get out of whatever legal problems I'm going to be in if I can't figure out a way to pardon myself. And he's fired everybody running the Pentagon, so for the next couple months, if this was a movie in the 60s produced by Disney, Don Knotts, or maybe fucking... what was the other guy that was started? Kurt Russell in the computer war tennis. Kurt Russell will be in charge of fucking the Pentagon. Not the fucking cool Snake Plissken Kurt Russell, but the computer wore tennis shoes Kurt Russell. Or maybe even a St. Bernard will be in charge of the most powerful army on the face of the planet for the next 2 months so that somebody can slip in and do whatever they want to us while everybody's looking at the pretty monkey over in the fucking White House that is our orangutan in chief. Giuliani was melting like Vincent Price in the House of Wax, which is an apt metaphor for this administration.
And like you said, he was standing next to women and men, all these other attorneys on his team. No one was having this problem. No one, and their women were wearing makeup. No one else was melting. At one point, I saw a photo on Twitter. I was in the middle of editing and I saw this photo. I was like, what the hell is this? Let me go check it out. He just had the dye coming down one side of the face, but then he turned and I noticed it was both sides. It was just coming straight down.
Both sides of his fucking ghoulish, corpse-like face. And you'd think it was, what he looks like? He looks like if Kevin Dunn lived in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house and was like the fucking nephew of the old man. Rudy Giuliani looks like an old man Texas Chainsaw Massacre Kevin Dunn with the fucking teeth and the fucking, and they've got him tied to a chair somewhere and his hair is melting. I got a couple of viewer mail here. I've just, normally I don't do this, but these were phrased politely. And also because I got a kick out of it, because I got these like the same day. And it's kind of the same, just apparently we know that our audience out there, Brian, would you say is the majority is male, but we do have our female listeners. Now, many of our female listeners have been exposed to us. I guess that may be the right phrase, sort of like a virus, exposed to us by their significant male in their relationship, right? But then they kind of get a kick out of it too sometimes. But there's others that just have to go along for the ride anyway, because that's one of those things they accept as long as they, at least maybe they get to get their boyfriend to leave the toilet seat down or whatever, but they got to still listen to us. So I got a couple of these. Briefly. Dear Jim, in all honesty, I'm sick of hearing your voice. Every morning and every night, your podcast plays through the speaker of my husband's phone. I roll my eyes daily at every Jim Cornette reference, but he remains a loyal fan. He's got to be your biggest fan. If you could please give him a shout out on your show so his life could be complete. In addition to the Cult of Cornette membership certificate, I just ordered him. Thank you very much. His name is Pussy Magnet Mixon. I would be forever grateful. Pussy Magnet Mixon. That's the way I filled out the certificate because I checked the order at the same time. She says if I would give him a shout out, she says she would be forever grateful. SMH, which is, I understand, is what the kids say, shaking my head. SMH, the things I put up with. Thanks. Hello, Pussy Magnet Mixon.
Are you saying welcome Nixon or Mixon?
Mixon. M-I-X-O-N. Mixon.
It was funnier if it was Nixon.
Well, no, he was no pussy magnet. He was not a crook, but he was not a pussy magnet either. And then also Karen writes in. And by the way, that last one was from Ren.
But Kissinger was.
Kissinger, oh my God. Angie Dickinson.
That's
what right. The fuck did that little troll-faced fucking German fuck have? Anyway. Hello, Jim and Brian. My fiance, Joe, is completely obsessed with the podcast and pretty much listens to y'all daily. So I know what part of the country you're coming from, honey. He likes to make me watch horrendous wrestling skits that drive me insane. Then he follows it up with your podcast, which I have to admit makes me laugh hysterically because you will say the exact thing I was thinking while watching these skits, especially those with Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho. We love the shameless advertisement plugs, and Joe has actually bought and loves the Omax Cryo Freeze. But to get to my point, Joe would love a shout-out, especially with the thank you, fuck you, bye at the end. He heard you tell someone that on a shout-out and has been wanting his own for a while. Life has been weird and hectic since COVID, but it has been really nice to sit and laugh with Joe over listening to you roast pro wrestlers. Well, Karen, thank you very much, and happy holidays to you too. And Joe, thank you, fuck you, bye. And buy more COVID, or buy more Omax. Buy more COVID. Buy more Omax.
Buy more COVID.
Buy more Ovaltine. Whatever the fuck. I told you I was sleepy.
I could tell.
Anyway, that's what I got. So what do you got for this show?
Well, this is your show today.
I thought you were going to run this today. All right. Well, in that case, folks, if you are indeed out there within the sound of my voice and you are depressed by your partner's addiction to Jim Cornette podcasts, then I suggest you get a hold of the folks at BetterHelp. Whether you have a partner that is shamelessly listening to me 24 hours a day, or you just need actual experienced counselors to talk to about legitimate real problems, the folks at BetterHelp can help you out. They can match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. Professional counseling done securely online with a broad range of expertise, not available locally. And of course, nobody goes out in person anymore. Once you set up with BetterHelp, you can log into your account anytime you want to, send messages to your counselors, get responses, set up weekly video or phone sessions. They're committed, I should say, to facilitating great therapeutic matches between you and your counselor. So if you go to BetterHelp.com, you can read the testimonials they post every day. BetterHelp.com, and that's, by the way, Better H-E-L-P. And if you go to BetterHelp.com and /JCE, it always sounds so violent toward me, /JCE, then you'll get 10% off your first month's counseling services. BetterHelp.com /JCE. And actually, Brian, this all ties together because I'm driving these poor women just absolutely to the end of their rope. So maybe they need somebody to talk to about how to get their partners and significant others off the Cornette habit. Put them on a last habit.
Always a good idea.
All right. What are we doing on the programming? We got programming notes. This coming week on the drive-thru. Well, next week, we got a weekend in between it.
That's
the
right.
Next drive-thru we do. It will not be out on Monday. It will be out on Tuesday because we are doing a doubleheader on that program with Thanksgiving flavor. We're not only watching and reviewing the Survivor Series pay-per-view that takes place Sunday night, but we are also doing a watch-along of an actual, not only a Thanksgiving time classic, but a legitimate I Quit match between Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA. That's on the drive-thru, which will come out Tuesday, November 24th. Is that correct?
I believe so. I'm looking at my calendar here.
Well, just take my word for it.
Tuesday, November 24th, indeed.
See there? You doubt me. And then
I didn't
next
doubt you.
week's, well,
I
you
confirmed.
better not.
I confirmed what you said.
Well, I don't think I need you to vouch for me. I have quite a bit of cachet with my word as my bond to begin with. But next week, on the Jim Cornette Experience, it's going to be one day late. And what the fuck's that Saturday, calendar boy?
The 28th.
Okay, and the reason for that is because we're not going to record on Thanksgiving Day. And if you expect us to, well, you need to lead a more exciting life. And so that's the programming update, right? For the next next week or so.
For the next week or so, yes.
Next couple of shows. And real briefly, JimCornette.com. I'm not even going to sell any of the merchandise individually. I'm not going to plug it. You know how good it is. You know you want it. You want it bad. You got to admit it. But get your orders in quick. The busy season has begun. Things have picked up, and the post office is going to be delayed this coming weekend with the Thanksgiving holiday and festivities and all that stuff. So get your orders in early. That's all I've got to say. Don't be writing me on Christmas Eve going, where's my shit I ordered 3 days ago? Boy, I have a surly way of selling merchandise to customers, don't I? But it is true.
Seems to work.
It's a time crunch is going to get involved here, people. If you expect to get anything, and international orders, do it this week or Christmas may be far-fetched because the mail's going to pick up again. And domestics, within the next 10 days or so, you need to be planning this 2 weeks. Make sure you get it in so that I can turn around and get it out. You can have it in your hot little hands ahead of time. Just a word to the wise. Can you see me putting my finger up to my eye? Why do people do that, Brian?
I don't know.
They always a word to the wise, and they put their finger up to their eye, and they pull it down, and they look at you like that, kind of sideways.
Who's doing that to you?
A lot of people do that. You see people do that all the time.
I don't see people do that all the time.
Well, you live in the wrong place.
Or the right place, depending on how you look at it.
Well, it depends on whether you want to see a lot of people with their finger in their eye. I don't know why are you taking me around in circles here? I'll do anything you want. Just tell me what we're doing.
This is the experience after dark. It's a whole different experience this week.
All right, I got another email because this was going to bring up an interesting subject. Hopefully. From Joseph. He says some good things about the merchandise that I'm not going to sell individually and how he can't stop reading the graphic novel and all the good things he says about the podcast. I won't enumerate all of those. But finally, a question, perhaps for the drive-thru, he says. Hence, I'm reading it on the experience. Whence the proliferation of wrestling doctors? I assume not all of those gentlemen had MDs or even PhDs. Jerry Graham, Sam Shepard, Dr. D, David Schultz, etc., etc. There's quite a gallery of doctors, leaving aside the more obvious uses of it as an athletic nickname, e.g. Steve Williams. It clearly dates back to long before the Titan creative team started hanging wacky professions on everyone. And I thought that was it, because there have been a lot of doctors in wrestling. And I prefaced this with you just before we went on the air. I said, I've not made a list, but let's just talk about some doctors in wrestling and see how many we can come up with and what interesting things may, because immediately I think of our friend, Dr. Tom Pritchard, member of the Heavenly Bodies, fantastic trainer of Hall of Fame level talent. But he was really, reason why he kind of got the nickname, you know, they brought him into Continental, I think it was like in 86, as they were the Fullers. He came in as a heel, and the Fullers and Jimmy Golden were doing a deal where they were in some type of angle rivalry or whatever. And they were doing either a boxing match or a tape fist match. And they brought him in as the cut man to be in the corner in some fashion. And he was wearing the green hospital scrubs. But someone said that it may have been an inside joke, because if you wanted to peruse pharmaceuticals at that point, a good place to start might be with Dr. Tom Pritchard. But it just sort of hung as a nickname. Do people know?
Well, then you made him the Doctor of Desire.
The Doctor of Desire, because, you know, you take what's there and then you tailor it slightly toward the updated gimmick. Not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Do people know that how Dr. Death actually got his nickname, which was before he started in pro wrestling? Is that story's been told so many times, but I forget it's been 30 years. Is this commonly knowledge now?
I don't know, because I haven't heard. I'm not sure. I mean, now that you say that, I'm trying to remember. Was it in football? Or was it in wrestling where you got the nickname?
Oh, okay. Well, good. If you don't know, then I know the people don't know. Doc at Oklahoma actually played football and wrestling, but I believe this was even before that. He wrestled in high school, because this was a high school deal. And he got a broken nose. And I think he was doing it. He did both sports at the same time in college. I think he was doing it at the same time in high school also. But point being, he broke his nose some kind of way. And to not miss any of the wrestling meets, he wore one of those face guards. Like, remember, it was done as an angle when they broke Ricky Morton's nose in 86. Flair did, and the Horsemen. And he would wrestle with the face guard on. or it's been done in a variety of places, but this was in legitimate high school wrestling. He put a face guard on so he could wrestle with his broken nose. And the coaches and the other wrestlers, just kind of, they didn't know he was going to be a professional wrestler, but it was likened to him being a masked pro wrestler, and the person that they thought of was Dr. Death, because that's a generic masked wrestling name. And that stuck, and he just used it. But he was being called that before he even got into college and way before he was a pro wrestler. Who would be the first? Was it Dr. Roller? Was that the first wrestling doctor?
Possibly. Yeah, I don't know about the first. That's a good question.
Dr. Roller in the early 1900s was one of the top shooters. And was he not the guy that in workouts leading up to the match, was he not the one that hurt Hackenschmidt's knee, which led to Hackenschmidt going into the second match with Gotch injured, and then Gotch double-crossed him and went for the fight, but they had the gentleman's agreement. Hackenschmidt knew he couldn't win, but Gotch was going to carry him, so they'd do 2 out of 3, and he wouldn't look bad. And then Gotch went for the leg and ate him up in 2 falls. And the scuttlebutt, or the rumor, was that Roller was in effect sent by Gotch's camp to infiltrate Hackenschmidt's camp and hurt him in training, which was never proven, but was highly suspicious. Did I get that correct?
I think so.
What kind of a doctor was he?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I don't know. Even Tim Hornbaker may not even know that one.
Doctor of Desire.
I don't know if they didn't have desire in the early 1900s, for heaven's sake. Good heavens. Back in those days, especially with the lack of hygienic habits, I bet desire was kept to a minimum. Dr. Bill Miller, or Dr. Big Bill Miller.
He was probably the most famous one for a long time.
I would think all during late 50s and 60s, because he was a veterinarian in Columbus. Dr. Ken Ramey was a manager, and obviously he wasn't any more doctor than in most of these doctors. But he was a manager, but that's why he had the interns, because he was a doctor, and the interns do what the doctor tells you to do. Dr. D. David Schultz, that came about just because I think he was probably watching basketball. Dr. J. Julius Erving, Dr. D. David Schultz. It was just that era of time. Dr. Sam Shepard was legitimately a doctor, obviously. Not only the inspiration for the Fugitive series and movie, but also an osteopath, was he not, in real life?
That's right.
Till the, murder trials started and everything. Then he had to become a wrestler. When he married George Strickland's daughter, I actually saw George Strickland wrestle live in 1974, and he looked like he was easily in his 50s at that point. So there you go. Give me some doctors.
Dr. Mike Lano. One of my favorite things about Dr. D. David Schultz, when he was on that Morton Downey Jr. episode, where it was like him and Albano and then Ted Arcidi at a podium, and they were just ganging up on Jim Wilson. And then Thunderbolt got to another podium and David Schultz went after him. But at one point, David Schultz finally has enough of Jim Wilson, and he goes to throw water on him. Or actually he does. He throws his drink in his face. And at that point, Albano realizes, I gotta calm him down. And his way of calming him down was to go, okay, doctor. All right, doctor.
All right, doctor.
Not David, but doctor.
Doctor. That reminds me of Lou Albano's favorite joke. I've told you this, have I not?
I don't.
Every time I would see Lou Albano from 1993 until the last time I ever saw him, the first thing he'd say to me was, hey, I hope that shirt's waterproof because that tie's a real pisser.
Lou Albano was great.
Coming from Albano, it was funny the first 3 to 7 times. But anyway, back to doctors.
You can certainly understand why Vince Jr. got really irritated with Albano often.
Even Vince Sr. had fired him like 17 times.
Yeah, and then Bruno was the one guy that loved him. He would go, Oh, come on, bring back Lou. He's at the bar. Bring him back. Lou Albano on all those late 80s shows like Morton Downey, and at one point he like debated Jeff Blatnick, which is ridiculous because Jeff Blatnick's a giant guy. He's an actual wrestler, and he's like challenging Hulk Hogan, and Albano's like, defending Hulk Hogan and the wrestlers. But Albano would say, whenever anyone would bring up blading, he's like, "Do you think my wife would stay with me if I took out a razor blade and cut my..." And you're looking at his forehead. And
my
just
God.
all over the place. These gig
Remember, he took out a goddamn a barber's straight razor in the garden and did it in front of everybody when he was drunk one night, mad at Vince Sr.
This'll show him. I mean, what does that do?
I don't know. I have no idea. But holy, there's one After magazine with a picture of him on the cover where he has like 17 blade marks all over his forehead, his cheeks, and his chin. But that was before he slowed down on his drinking. But anyway, back to doctors.
Doctors. Dr. Britt Baker.
Oh, good Lord. All right. I didn't think about that. Was she the first woman doctor?
Women doctor? Woman
the first female to use the Dr. Zabadai?
I think so. I can't think of anyone else. I mean, I don't know if there was someone else. Dr. X?
Well, yeah, it's kind of,
You don't know if he's a doctor or not. It's a mystery.
That's true. We have no way of seeing did they just make his medical school diploma out to X? We don't know these things. Dr. Jerry Graham, the reason why he was a doctor, he was a hypnotist.
That's right.
Early in his career, right?
That's right.
And naturally, if you're a hypnotist, you have to be a doctor because then that makes it more legitimate.
Dr. Bernhard Schwartz.
No, he didn't wrestle.
Dr.
Bernhard
George
Schwartz,
Zaharian.
He didn't wrestle either.
But they were on TV all the time.
Well, Zaharian wasn't on TV as much as Bernhard Schwartz was.
Yes, he was. He was ringside for every WWF TV tape.
No, I mean, they actually had Bernhard Schwartz coming in and attending to people and doing things on that TV out there.
I just saw a promo that Zaharian cut on TV. On WWF TV, Vince Jr. holding the mic and Zaharian's cutting some promo about something. I forget what it was, actually.
Oh, now who are we forgetting?
Yeah, we have to be forgetting a lot of people.
We have to be, and now a lot of, people are screaming now. People are screaming now at their various devices. They're listening. What about Dr. So-and-so?
Dr. Jerry Graham, Dr. D. David Schultz, Dr. Death, Dr. X, Dr. Ken Ramey.
Well, there's been many various masked, like Dr. X's and Dr. Deaths and, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
Dr. Isaac Yankem.
Ooh.
Briefly.
Now, that was based on Mike Lano, right?
No, that was based on Vince being pissed off one day when he had a dentist appointment, having too much time to think. That's what that was. Well, there you go. Bunch of doctors.
We have to be forgetting someone.
I know we are. And see, I thought, it'll just flow. I'm stumped. And I know we're forgetting like 18 people that we're going to be feel stupid about. So this is an audience participation thing. Everybody send in your various doctors that we missed in wrestling.
When I did a couple battle royals for Dennis, there was a guy working for him at the time, Dr. Dick Hertz, which is just ridiculous.
Actually, that is the way that Dick Beyer, the Destroyer, used to introduce himself to people when he didn't want to reveal his real name. It was like the cops or whatever. Hey, how you doing? Big Dick Hertz. And they'd laugh. And they'd go on. And then you don't ask the guy wearing a mask what his real name is. It's just not good form. I'll tell you one thing. If you don't want to see doctors not in wrestling but in real life, then you need to take good care of yourself. And the way you can take good care of yourself and not have to see a doctor as often is by taking your athletic greens. Is that not the case? Oh, Brian Lath.
I love my athletic greens. I start my day every single day. I have my breakfast, I have my athletic greens. I'm guaranteed I have all the nutrients I would need for the entire day, all the vitamins, all the minerals, and it tastes good. And then I put like I said before, my D3 dropper in there. So I make sure I get my D3 in case I'm not going to be able to go out into the sun because we're recording shows.
Yes, and it's dark so much longer now. Folks, if you want a comprehensive 40 fruits, vegetables, and botanicals every single day with added vitamins and minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and all kinds of stuff, And it's easy as adding it to water, shaking it up in the shaker that they send you, and gulping it down. No mess, no cleanup, no juicing, no trips to the grocery store. Go to Athletic Greens, and it keeps you regular too. I'm telling you, I'm a pro pooper these days. But whether it's your busy schedule, poor sleep, lack of exercise, too much stress, not eating enough of the right foods, Athletic Greens is a daily all-in-one superfood powder, by far the easiest and most delicious nutritional habit that you can have. We all have bad habits. We should have good ones. So anyway, folks, not only is the Athletic Greens something that we all need to figure in, and it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy, or gluten-free, less than 1 gram of sugar. And they're offering all of us now, all of you out there, within the sound of my voice, a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit athleticgreens.com/JCE. 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free Athletic Greens travel packs today with your order. So join the health experts, the athletes, and the health-conscious go-getters around the world who make a daily commitment to their health. You don't have to be a go-getter, because I'm an ass-sitter, and I still want to be healthy. athleticgreens.com/JCE.
That's right.
Well, thank you for having that pithy comment about what I just said to follow up with. Should we talk about... I've got to bring this, the referee. The referee in it. Before we go into our NXT thoughts, and believe me, I have a few thoughts on that. I said this weeks ago. I've called another one, Brian. I've foreseen, just by looking at a guy on television, I've seen into his soul and his psyche, and I've called another one. I said that one of the referees, did I not? Am I telling a lie? One of the referees on NXT, I said weeks and weeks ago, I was watching one of the matches, I said, is that fucking guy wearing blackface? And then once I've thought that to myself, it's all I could see, because the back of his neck was pale, and his face was like he had put makeup on. It was so dark. It went even beyond the orange tint of the Mango Mussolini. It was just dark. And I thought, has somebody done some angle that I'm not aware of? You remember when I brought this up?
Oh, yeah, because it made me look at it and pay attention to it.
And then you said it just looks like somebody that really is just not careful with his tanning and is trying to get cancer on purpose, like, I don't know, Randy Marsh get ball cancer to get...
I don't remember saying that.
Well, Randy Marsh got the ball cancer so he could get the fucking, medical marijuana card, but then his balls were so big they wouldn't get in the door of the store. You remember when that happened. It was in all the papers. But anyway, come to find out, apparently, I think the guy was wearing blackface. Either that or he was trying to make himself up to resemble the Mango Mussolini, because apparently the guy's name is Drake Wuertz, and he has been on the internet under his own name with his smiley picture and WWE in his handle, associating with all the right-wing lunatic militia types and Proud Boys. Have you heard about this? Have you read about this?
I have.
They've got a right-wing Twitter. It's a new thing, because the people that have been run off of Twitter, and imagine how stunningly and bafflingly full of shit that you have to be run off of Twitter. That just the real egregiously stupid conspiracy theory believing right-wing lunatics have now got their own Twitter called Parler. And old Drake there, maybe that's the Drake that they were quoting the other day. Old Drake there.
That was not the Drake they were quoting.
That wasn't that same Drake. But he gets on this thing and says, hey, I guess it's coded language amongst these type of people. Hey, where's all my South Florida or South, whatever is area of Florida, where's all my so-and-so Florida patriots at? That's one of the code language for these stupid militia fucks that have their gun fantasies and play out in the woods because they can't get laid. Where's all my patriots at? Trying to be more active here. I assume going to Klan meetings and white supremacist, rallies and quilting bees amongst the white supremacist grannies and things. And he's got all the hashtags. He's a big Trump fuck. And he's got the hashtag God Guns Trump. Already, I hate this fucking guy, right? God Guns Trump. Hashtag MAGA, all this other stuff. And people find this and they've started to go, what the fuck? So it's not okay to say, no, I don't want to give up my side businesses to be an independent contractor and work for your company. But it's okay to actively promote yourself as one of these. By the way, the Proud Boys answered him. We're right here. We're right over here. Just make sure. So
where we've always been.
Yeah, where we've always been here in Florida. So you can actively court the favor of these right-wing goof groups and crow about the idiot in the White House that is destroying our democracy, throwing people's faith in our elections out the window, making us look like an idiot in front of the entire world, and our whole country's in disarray, and all of these lunatic militia groups and these violent right-wing fascist fucking whatevers and these fantasists that want to go out and play with their fellow boyfriends in the woods with their big rifles. It's okay, but don't stand up for your side business as an independent contractor because we'll can you on the spot. And he used to be a deathmatch wrestler now. We've come to find that's been revealed. He used to be a deathmatch wrestler for one of the mud shows up there in the Northeast somewhere. So this guy apparently is a mental incompetent. Did I cover everything? Do you know any more about this?
The only thing I could say is I actually know some people that know him, and to a man, they all say what a great guy is, how much they like him. Now, with that said, not everyone in the wrestling business is a brain surgeon. Not everyone in the wrestling business is intelligent. I can't explain or excuse any of this shit. I will say, though, what I was going to say before. Someone told me, and I didn't see it, but apparently, I guess maybe there was a tweet or something where he's the guy who, after everything went down with Joey Ryan, I guess got in touch with him and tried to push him to forming a relationship with the Lord.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So, so he's just basically the world's biggest sucker. He believes in Trump. He believes this whole patriotism thing. He believes in God. And he believes in severe facial skin cancer.
It's interesting, though, because obviously you are a liberal. I'm a liberal. I know a lot of people who are big wrestling fans who are liberals. The ones who are usually up in arms about shit, whether it's something you did or something someone else did, they're usually the liberals. Wrestling, though, is predominantly run by right-wing Republicans. The WWE.
Oh, run by
AEW.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not just the top, it's the top on down. Because he's like, doesn't he have a position with NXT beyond just being a referee?
He was. There was a thing on Twitter where he was the guy that sent the email, right? To in Riddle's thing. They canceled out one of the girls being booked there. Was it Riddle or somebody else that's getting sued for something or did something wrong? He said, well, you had a problem with one of our talents, so we can't use you. So right. That was on the internet somewhere. So, but I just, my mind explodes when I see somebody under the age of 50 actually falling for this fucking right-wing Republican shit. You would think the younger people and the smart as you go along, more people are better educated, etc. But just any young people But I guess the stupid in white people overcomes you would think younger people would be better educated and more diverse and more accepting of and more able to see a fucking sucker or a line of bullshit when they see it instead of being a sucker. I don't know. I'm astonished at young people who still want to fucking go along with it. But anybody of any age, God, guns, and Trump, right there, you can sell them a goddamn piece of oceanfront property in Nevada. Anyway, that prefaces our NXT thoughts, does it not?
It could.
Quite well. It could. It's about to. I had a 2-hour show on my DVR, but when I pressed play on it, the Johnny Sameface and Leon Ruffin match was already in progress. What happened? Did you see it from the start?
Yeah, I mean, it started a couple minutes before that.
Did it run over? Was it longer than a 2-hour program?
I'm not sure. My DVR, I think the DVR ran a little long. My DVR recording cut off right after the angle at the end, right when they were closing. Almost perfect timing. It was incredible.
Okay, well, the point is, I jumped into the middle of this. When I pressed play, here it was. I don't know what happened. So
Gargano came out and said last week was a fluke, and he wanted him right now, and that set everything up.
Well, I was about to say, because it was Johnny Sameface and Leon Ruffin, I didn't try to do a lot of detective work to find out what was going on, because where I came in, Ruffin was doing flips everywhere, diving off the top of the floor, completely over the top of Sameface's head at one point. Did you see this? He jumps up on the top rope. He does a flip and he goes straight over the top of him. And he still fell down now.
And Wade Barrett called it because he couldn't ignore it. He's like,
yeah.
Oh, he went right past him, or whatever he said.
And Leon Ruffin has a lot of fire and spunk, but he can't weigh 130 pounds. But it wasn't as bad here as it was when he was up in somebody else's, when he was up in the other people's face, because Johnny Sameface is a junior high school, normal sized human. So basically, big Damian Priest comes out, pulls Leon Ruffin out, punches him to get Johnny Sameface DQ'd because he's fucking with Johnny Sameface because Johnny Sameface took his belt. So it was what it was. I just now they're doing an angle based on that this guy is a joke as champion, and that's the way you can sometimes get an underdog over, but. What the fuck? He's undernourished is what he is, not an underdog. Leon Ruffin is undernourished. And you still have Damian Priest, who should be a star on the main roster. He's one of to me, the brightest spots they've got in the whole company. And it's like he should be playing for the Lakers, and he's playing high school pickup ball with these two kids. And your North American title is on a fucking guy that is, the whole thing's a joke angle, that now you're making an angle out of the fact that everybody thinks he's a joke. And we got to watch Sameface, have the same face all the time. And blackface referee was the referee here. Wonder how old Leon Ruffin thinks about old Drake there calling out the white supremacists and the fucking nationalists.
Well, who called him out the other day on Twitter? Was it Bronson Reed? Was that what I saw?
I didn't see that. I don't follow Mr. Reed on Twitter.
I believe he said something. Yeah.
And boy, hopefully old Bronson Reed never gets to give that big splash off the top to old Drake, or we might need a new referee. Anyway, what'd you think of the match? It is what it is. It's, Gargano can fucking work. He's just so small and bland and boring. And Leon Ruffin, if he didn't have one of the major championships and they were just doing an underdog deal, he has appeal. He has a nice smile, but he's just cartwheeling and doing flips because that's what a 130-pound guy can do. But I don't know. What do you think?
I kind of agree with what you said. He showed a lot. He showed good fire in there. But the issue is you point out with everybody, AEW in here. When someone's small, you'll point it out. He's so much smaller than them.
Yeah. Except for the dwarf dong sucker over on the other channel. Nobody's smaller.
Other than
that.
Marco Stunt, there's no one. Like, Jungle Boy is slim, but this guy takes it to a whole nother level, and it's sad. I shouldn't say sad, but like you said, he does seem talented in the ring. He does have really good fire. He does show a lot, but he is really small, and you could pull that off against Gargano to an extent, but him and Damian Priest, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, and I agree with you 100%. Damian Priest, everything he does on camera, this guy's a star. This guy should be, I'm not going to say main eventing right now, the main roster, but he should be on that path, on the trajectory to main eventing on the main roster. Well, and
that's the problem. There's a few bright spots on this show. This, by the way, I'll just start out. This NXT program is worst wrestling show I've seen in I don't know how long. Not from an insulting, offensive, this is bullshit, they're doing this to the business standpoint, but just a bad show standpoint. And we will enumerate as we go along. But that's the thing, is there's a few bright spots, Priest and Ripley and et cetera, a few others. And they're not on a trajectory to do anything. They're seeming like they're feeding them to other people for the other people's trajectory. And I don't know what the fuck they're looking at.
Yeah, I'll just say it, and actually just brought it up. I can't explain for the life of me how they have blown it with Rhea Ripley.
Since
WrestleMania. We'll save it for the review. I'm sorry.
Save it because we'll go into it in detail. Don't get me started now because we got a lot of dreck left to go. The blindfold match with Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. And the whole thing with Grimes not wanting to look him in the eyes and then him standing. I liked Cameron Grimes until they've done all this with him, where now he's just an idiot, acting like an idiot. An idiot wouldn't even act like this. And he was doing this match stipulation, which is a goofy stipulation. He was doing it goofy immediately. Over broadly goofy. Obviously goofy. Goof on purpose goofy. However you might phrase it, rather than just being a goof. Look, the blindfold matches are never easy, and it's like everything else. When it was originally done, there was a specific reason with the specific people, and the angle had progressed there. And it's been used a couple times when the babyface has been blinded to make the heel come down to his level. It's been used before, conversely, when, to flummox the fucking heel. But this was just it's like they saw highlights of a match, or somebody told them about the match they saw one time and they just decided to do this. And there's no reason to do it. And it's also like everything else, when it was first done seriously, it meant something. Then everybody made a goof out of it and it never meant anything anymore. I think this is I don't know who might take credit for it, what territory, but it's an Eddie Graham thing that they used down there in Florida. It was sort of like the lights out thing a few times, but it's to be serious. It's when they start, they've set up a reason why that both these guys are going to be blindfolded. And then the standard way to do it is the heel cheats. He'll at some point he's going to peak and he's going to be able to get an advantage on the babyface after the initial feeling out period, but then the people are going to be mad. So then the babyface is going to figure out that if he sticks his finger out and points, the people will tell him. And then if he points and it's at the referee, they go, no, points at nothing, no, he points at the heel, yeah, and then he starts going that way, but the heel doesn't know what he's doing because he's supposedly blindfolded. So he's hearing the people cheer and wonder what the fuck is up and blah, blah, blah. And as I said, it meant something in programming at one point when it was first done originally in the first few times in each territory as a stipulation, but then it got prostituted in various places. They used to have blindfold battle royals as a spot show attraction in Tennessee, where they'd have 8 guys on the card and they'd have 2 singles. And then they'd have a tag, and then everybody would come back in a 8-man blindfold battle royal for $1,000. And everybody would have the hood over their head. And the deal was you had to be either thrown over the top rope or pin in a spot show, because a lot of people did, but I've had one of the hoods on. I did the deal with Sunshine. Yeah, you can't fucking whip me blindfolded. And it was goddamn kabuki. You can see through the hood because it's regular black material. And when it's close to your face and there's no light behind it, then you can't see through it from the outside. But when it's close to your face and there's light in the arena, you can see through the hood when you're wearing it. So you need to act like you can't, but you can. And they would do the battle royals, but it was just a spot show thing in Tennessee. But then when Dundee took the book in Mid-South, one of the things he pitched to Watts was that idea. But Watts, being the Roy Shire more mindset, so let's make it as dangerous and as big as possible. So he didn't do it in spot shows. He did it in his big towns as an attraction one time in the main event in a lot of the big towns. An 18-man blindfold battle royal. Guys that weigh between 200 and 300 pounds blindfolded, fighting it out for $20,000. You got to go over the top rope to the concrete floor to be eliminated. You could be killed. And it actually did decent houses because what the fuck? We've never seen anything like that. But if they'd have done it at spot shows and made it goofy, nobody would have cared. That's what they did here. They made this goofy from the start and then made it really fucking goofy when at the point where Grimes backs up on the referee. That's a spot in the match. You're supposed to, and then you grab the referee and like you're going to put a hold on him, and the fucking referee grabs the fucking hood and pulls it up over and see, hey, it's me. Oh shit, okay, that's a little high spot. Now Grimes beats the referee up and kicks him out of the ring, and then there's no referee. And then I couldn't watch this. I fast forwarded it from there. I don't know what fuck happened, and I don't really care. What'd you think?
You know, we kill AEW for the same thing of just taking something that it may not be a 5-star match, but something that traditionally has led to interest and has been something that can potentially draw people into something. Jake Roberts and Rick Martel at WrestleMania. Horrible match.
Yeah.
Everyone in that building was totally into it. And when Jake was doing the pointing, they were all yelling, he's there, run, or whatever they're yelling. When done, it's supposed to be effective. It's supposed to mean something. They literally just threw this on the show. This is what AEW does. We're going to have a bunkhouse match. We're going to have a blindfold match. It's a waste of a stipulation. I agree that Cameron Grimes has gotten sillier. I still think he's really talented and really good.
I do too.
I don't blame him for their bad creative.
Yeah, but
he's making the best of it that he can. Look at that whole show. They have no idea how to make a good show. NXT was a lot better a year ago. It was better 2 years ago.
What's happened? What changed?
It went on USA Network and went to 2 hours.
It was better 3 months ago. At one point, about a month or 6 weeks ago, I said, well, this is the best wrestling show I've seen in I don't know how long. Anyway. Regal and Damian Priest and Leon Ruffin were in the back, and that's where Leon Ruffin is telling him. And Priest was even being natural here, just with what the little they had given him to work with. Hey, I didn't mean to be joking around too much, blah, blah, but he seems natural when he's speaking. But then, and old Leon slapped him. And said, hey, I'm not going to be anybody's joke. And now I guess Leon, as he was leaving the building later on, said, I'll take both of them on. So it's going to be Damian Priest against Johnny Sameface against Leon Ruffin. Fuck. It should be a handicap match for 4 minutes with Damian Priest against the other two. But anyway, even in this stuff, Priest comes off like he's not play acting. The next match was Indy Hartwell and Mrs. Sameface against two girls who could walk under the top rope without ducking. What were your thoughts?
I hope you don't mind, but I executed my fast-forward rule.
Very good.
I don't really care much about Mrs. Sameface, and no one in this match appealed to me. I've hated everything they've done with Gargano and his wife since they started doing the at-home vignettes. I have no interest.
Well, I executed the fast-forward rule of two girls who could walk under the top rope without ducking. But the next match, Arturo Ruas against Kushida. And at this point, now look here, we've come in halfway, I have at least, between Leon Ruffin and Johnny Sameface. It was what it was. We had a stinky blindfold match. We had a stinky girls match that wasn't worth watching. And now we get Kushida, who Delta still hadn't found his bag with his wrestling tights and gear, against the guy making his apparent television debut. I wrote, how about Tits McGee and his brother Putz against Joe Nobody with his best friend Al? And I executed the Tits McGee rule and fast-forwarded through this, too, because they got to give me something to work with here. What'd you think of it? Kushida's your boy.
I wouldn't say he's my boy. I didn't know Tits McGee and Putz McGee were brothers. That's a big revelation here. They did like a little video vignette before the match showing, what was his name, Ruas?
Ruas.
And I was like, oh, who's this? This guy looks like a little bit of a badass. So naturally, he loses to Kushida.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The other guy got beat by a grade schooler.
And look, Kushida's a very talented guy in the ring, but ever since
just
you pointed it out,
people can do these moves.
Will you let me finish? I'm not disagreeing. Because what I was going to say is, ever since you brought it up, all I could focus on is how small he is now. And he was noticeably smaller than Ruas here. So, I don't know.
All right.
I was going to say NXT is losing me. NXT hasn't had me. But this program's rough to get.
I feel AEW used by NXT. I've put them over in the past.
AEW, there's the morbid curiosity. AEW at least gives you moments where you slap yourself in the face and go, oh my God. NXT is just sticking your finger in your eye. Just like, oh, when is this going to end?
They did the package with Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai where everybody was picking. And this is what doesn't make any sense to me. There's Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H all pick Rhea Ripley. Any one of them had the power to make it so. Why are you so blind? Are they keeping her because they figure she's only 23 and they need to give her more seasoning? But they're on national television now. People are not going to forget if they bring her up in 2 years when she's 25 or whatever. They're not going to forget they've seen these things. And they followed that package up, by the way, with Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez against Ember Moon and Toni Storm. And I wrote, they're killing me because I know I got to watch a girls match later on because Rhea Ripley's in it. And they've already given me a girls tag immediately, was it not? No, we put the Japanese grade schooler against the mixed martial artist in between the previous girls tag and this girls tag. What'd you think of that girls tag?
I tried to watch it. I really couldn't get into it. Dakota Kai's great. Everything she does, she's main roster. She's great. She's fantastic. I really didn't care about. I'm not a fan of Ember Moon. And otherwise, I
don't care if her name's Harvest Moon. I'm tired of just, all right. And it's not even in its girls match. I want to see if somebody hit me in the head so I can see some stars. The next match was Timothy Thatcher, who I like and enjoy, and who's talented, against a car wash attendant. His student that he was taking advantage of on one of the Thatch Can segments. And all the athletes that they have in this program that look like somebody, and this guy getting offense on Thatcher looks like a guy that plays guitar for money in the subway. And he got offense on as Joe LeDuc said one time, numerous of times. Thatcher would take over and beat him up for a while, and the guy stuck with it and made comebacks. And the guy was not a bad worker. He'd be main event talent in All Friends Wrestling. But his appearance and presentation that he's a nobody from the start of this and was one of Thatcher's nobody students, that he's got this much offense in what's supposed to be Thatcher's game. I don't understand what they're doing. I understand what they're trying to do. Thatcher's a badass, crusty, fucking bitter, bad attitude, fucking hooker, shooter, stretcher guy that takes advantage of people lesser than him. So he needs to take advantage of the people lesser than him, or that are his students and are giving him their bodies. And then some top guy needs to come out and give him a little taste of his own medicine sometime. Not the fucking students that he's pushing around. They don't get as I believe it was Ernie Ladd one time, the first time I heard this phrase, they get their comeback to the dressing room. That's where those guys get their comeback. But then finally, Thatcher front face locked him, the Grovit, by the way, by old Mr. Barrett. The English version, he got the tap out and then puts it on again, and here comes Ciampa, and they have a stare down, and Thatcher backs out and said, I don't have a problem with you. Which that would have been great if Thatcher hadn't had a problem putting that fucking student away, in my opinion. If he'd have just stretched that guy for like a banjo string from asshole to appetite, and then fucking backed up from Ciampa, well, maybe there's some, but he's actually had trouble putting the car wash guy away and then backs up from Ciampa. Okay, it's a whole different thing. Do you feel me, Brian?
You know, obviously they were going for something the other day when they did that Thatch Can segment, and this guy, came at him. But it led to this, and it was just like, who cares? This was all done so poorly. I am excited about the idea of Thatcher versus Ciampa. That could be something I'd like to watch. And they did a better job of building that up in 10 seconds than they did whatever. I wish I remembered this guy's name. I feel bad because you didn't know his name, and I have no idea what his name is.
I don't care what his name is. I do not care what your name is. Because that's... I agree with you, Ciampa and Thatcher, and that's why, because Ciampa knows how to get over, and they've done some screwy things with him booking-wise, but he stays pretty strong in his matches, and so Thatcher should have been doing the same. And then we're going to look forward to seeing that match, but if they were doing their job, they would make other people who don't watch this for their fucking line of work more excited to see that match. Anyway, then... So next up in this parade of terror, I keep saying that every week, but goddamn, I expected to see, okay, now contest winners are going to have a match with the star power on this program. My God, this was not a who's who of wrestling. It was a who's that of pro wrestling. But here comes Damian Priest. I'm like, thank God. And Johnny Sameface jumps him out on the floor. We don't get to see a match. This little kid versus this grown-ass man. And Priest starts kicking his ass. Okay, I'm starting to get with it. And here comes old Leon Ruffin. And he hits the ring, and they do 5 or 6 spots in a row. Any one or even 2 of them were cute and well done and hats off. But 5 or 6 in a row where everybody had to run into each other without knocking the shit out of Leon, and he was allowed to clear the ring. And it was a little contrived at that point. And then he fucking bails out, and there's Damian Priest and Johnny Sameface left standing in the ring together with their dicks in their hands. 2 guys that... Damian Priest should be signing autographs for Johnny Gargano on the way to the ring. And Leon Ruffin should be in the 3rd row watching Damian Priest. And I don't know what the fuck they're doing here. As I said, should be playing with the Lakers, and he's in a junior high school pickup game. And they don't have that many stars that they can just, we'll give him some chance later on.
I was just thinking that.
Can't you see it?
That's one of the problems with Damian Priest in NXT. Who else is even close to his size? I mean, Killer Cross or Karrion Kross, he has some size to him. He's out for an indefinite period of time. Most of the guys there are junior heavyweights, right? There aren't that many.
But it's not even about the size, because Priest is also levels above almost everybody else in terms of promo.
I agree with that.
And levels above everybody else, not everybody, but levels above most of the other guys in terms of his work, not with the fancy moves he does, but with actual working and performing a match instead of a series of choreographed gymnastics. So it's not like you can't see that anybody could. Everybody up there in any position of importance would be able to see this in any other era. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, thoughts on this angle or whatever it was?
I don't know. I mean, I like Priest. I like watching his stuff. But this whole show is just a bad show. It's hard to get from the beginning of the show where they did their first angle to this show. If I wasn't required to watch it for this show that we're recording right now, I would have turned it off or fast forwarded through the whole thing. Now, there was something good at the end, and I really like Priest, but the roster just doesn't seem good. I like women's wrestling a lot more than you. They're shoving a lot of women's wrestling down our throat. I think NXT just has lost its way completely, and they need to do something to shake things up. This is a bad show. The booking's bad. There's not a lot of top flight talent. Usually with NXT, there's guys who are like, oh man, WWE's going to pull them up soon. This guy's really talented. Who? Who now? I mean, there aren't that many. Who? Priest is one of them.
Who? You wise old owl. I know what you like, though.
A Tootsie Pop.
You like the next segment because you're an old man fan. You got a kick out of that last week when they replayed the old man coming up and handing the kiss of death to whatever, and Regal goes to Boa's apartment. And all he can say is, she's coming. Ooh. And is this, who's she? Is this another, and they made sure it's not Zia Lee or whatever the fuck, because Regal said that. And so is this another ancient Chinese female wrestler coming to populate NXT? What the fuck's going on here?
Again, I would be completely unaware of any of this if I wasn't forced to watch. Zia Lee, they got me doing it.
I don't know.
She did promos for a few weeks saying, I have to win. And then she would go and lose. And then she doesn't show up last week. And then this guy comes out in a suit to apologize.
Gets his ass kicked.
That she's not there, gets his ass kicked by Raquel Gonzalez, who then leaves. And then it becomes a light show. I expected Pink Floyd to play. Oh, there's dragons flying around the building. And then this guy just shows up. Last time I saw him, he was selling a Mogwai. This guy shows up and he hands the envelope to the guy and he flips out. And now he's afraid to go back and he's hiding in his apartment.
And he was afraid of Steve Regal or William Regal.
Wrestling was always so easy to get. That was one of the reasons so many people got into it. It was easy to understand. It was easy to get. This sucks. This sucks. Someone's gonna write to me and say, "Oh, you're killing this. It's better than AEW." I'm not saying AEW is great either, but this show sucks.
Yeah, like a fucking vacuum cleaner. All right.
What happened to Triple H? What happened to the Triple H that everyone raved about, and the NXT that everyone raved about with Triple H? What has happened?
He's apparently still there because he picked Rhea Ripley to win, even though she lost. We'll get to that in a second. But so he's there. I don't know what the fuck's happening here. I think they've let the inmates run the asylum. The main event, we've waited for it for the Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. And no, I did not fast forward through Io Shirai's match for you, Brian, because I want to see Rhea Ripley. And I will admit that Io Shirai is not of the Riho or the Freddie Mercury Sakura Emmy category.
Can I stop you right now?
What?
I agree. I think Io Shirai is really good. But it just made me think, how ridiculous. For a few months, we had to deal with AEW just debuts on TV. And one of the first wrestlers on all those early shows is Emi Sakura, who
is a cross-dressing Freddie Mercury.
She would come out with a mustache.
The mustache.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's been so long that just thinking about it.
But see, now I was trying to go in a positive direction here. And you just take me back. But she's a very fine, accomplished female wrestler. All right. However, as we alluded to earlier, what in the flying French fried titty fuck are they doing? Rhea Ripley is the biggest star in women's wrestling by the time that her entrance is over. The biggest star. Notice star, the word star. I'm not saying she's the best worker, although she's excellent. She's actually a better worker than most of the athletic move-doing women.
That's right.
She has the best look in the company. She, as we've mentioned, she's an action movie star waiting to happen. Even if they didn't want to bring her up because of her youth now, and they think she can get even better, start protecting her now. If she can't win a match like this, don't put her in it. It's ridiculous. She is, to me, in the entire cast right now, with Becky Lynch pregnant and Charlotte injured and out of action, she's the biggest star in women's wrestling. They need to start marketing this ASAP. She can sell, she can register, she can react, she can work with her body language and her facials, but she starts at the way that and I'm not even saying that this should have been a squash, but except for a couple of brief nods early on to big girl, little girl, the fact that there was a 1 foot size difference didn't play in this match. I have not seen anybody, including Charlotte, woman handle and beat the shit out of Rhea Ripley like this 5'1", 120-pound girl. They could have had a competitive match like Ernie Ladd and Ricky Morton instead of like fucking two guys the same size or two people the same size. Ripley started off early having to play duck and dodge and or sell for a girl a foot shorter who looks like she should be a featherweight champion. And then within a minute, Shirai had slipped off the ropes on the turnaround crossbody attempt because she was a little too short to make it up there. But the point is, Rhea Ripley was trying to do Io Shirai's match instead of the other way around. We say this all the time. Nobody gets it. This match should have been built, even if Rhea Ripley wasn't going to win it, wasn't going to go over in the finish, it should have been built to showcase Ripley more and Shirai being the underdog. Think Awesome Kong and Gail Kim more than this was way too much of Io Shirai in control at the start, at the middle, and at the end. But they always now, they shine the faces at the start of every match, even if it makes no sense in the context of this matchup, because that's what you're supposed to do. Baby face shines at the start, then you get the heat. Sometimes it needs to be the opposite, as we've gone through on the program. When you've got somebody that obviously can overpower their opponent, use that early and let the opponent's wittiness and speed and trickery and resourcefulness come out, then they shine, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, as soon as Rhea Ripley got a heat spot, they went to the break, and you didn't see 3 minutes of her heat. But then again, when they came back, Io Shirai's comeback was everything that Rhea Ripley shouldn't do or take. It was like there was no size difference. And then when Ripley got her earring ripped and got the ear juiced, that, you know, she could have fired up there, but they had to go to another break because this was going quite long at this point. I wasn't not enjoying it, but it's going long for Rhea Ripley to carry this much smaller opponent. And there they are standing there toe-to-toe trading. I wrote, she's trading with this beautiful giant beast, and here's this little tiny girl. And finally, Ripley gets her cloverleaf hold, that great with one arm even. And Shirai gets to the ropes. Ripley almost got the gotch lift, but Io continues to kick the shit out of her. I wrote, a Japanese high school cheerleader is destroying the female Rock. Finally, Io Shirai foils the fucking Riptide and DDTs Ripley. Then did the spot where she power bombed her off the apron across the announce desk. So she's juiced Rhea Ripley, whether intentionally or not. She's still bleeding. Then she power bombs her off the apron across the announce desk. And then as Ripley beats the count in, Io hits the moonsault, boom, 1, 2, fucking 3. What the and I know everybody's going to say, well, see, that it took all that to beat her. No, that's what they told Rhea Ripley to get her to do the job, I'm sure. But what it means is that's what Io Shirai was able to do to Rhea Ripley. So when they find a legitimate top female superstar that a mainstream audience might be able to buy, such as Rhea Ripley against Rhea Ripley, such as a Charlotte, or even a Becky Lynch if she ever shows up again. This little girl, Io, has just kicked the shit out of Rhea Ripley and beat her. If you weren't going to put that belt on her and start shoving her to the fucking moon, don't book the match. Everybody else gets a shitty non-finish. Do one here. Don't beat her flat. So it wasn't a shitty match. It was just shitty because of who was in it and how it was done. And I as soon as 1, 2, 3, I fucking give up. I couldn't wait for this fucking thing to be over with. I gave up on this whole fucking show. What'd you think of this thing?
I don't disagree with a lot of what you said. I put that out of my mind. I enjoyed the match. I liked the match. It was a fun match. I don't agree with the finish. When it happened, my thought was, are they bringing her to the main roster? I'm not saying that justifies Io Shirai beating her.
That used to work when you beat somebody on their way out when they were leaving one place and going to another place.
They do that with everyone in NXT.
You can't leave one place and they're on national TV. You're not leaving. You're just switching fucking shows.
Who was the last person that went to the main roster from NXT without doing a job?
Well, they need to rethink their shit because it doesn't apply anymore.
I don't disagree.
They weren't on national TV. That's one thing.
But that's what they do. And they could use star power like Rhea Ripley on the main roster. And quite frankly, I mean, Vince McMahon could fuck up anything. But it would be very hard to fuck up Rhea Ripley more than she's been fucked up since WrestleMania. They have blown it with the biggest potential female star in wrestling. She's great in the ring. She's great with all the small things in the ring. She's gorgeous. She does a promo. And
that's the thing. You just actually don't drop the qualifier with the field of talent that they have right now. She not just could be their top female star. She might be their top star because the merchandising, I'm going insane thinking of the merchandising and the posters and the shirts and the calendars and the whatever the fuck and the Rhea Ripley pajamas. I don't know. But I can't believe with the lack of serious mainstream superstar top level talent that they've already got, that they can't grab the few that they have here that can actually make it and do something with them without trying. Have they just given up and they're just trying to appeal to the fucking crowd that's just going to watch the technical wrestling exhibitions of all of the indie level wrestlers?
You said it last week, and I think it applies to what you just said. They're obviously not treating this like a ratings war anymore. They're just doing,
no, that's obvious.
They're just doing their show. So I don't even know what the purpose of the show is sometimes. I'm like, why is this show here? But
closing thoughts on Rhea Ripley.
She's great. She's a star. I enjoyed the match. I don't disagree with your general thoughts about the idea that she lost to a girl who's 5'2", but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I think Io Shirai has shown that she's really talented in the ring. I don't know who she's going to work with next, but Rhea Ripley should be on the main roster, and she should be used like the star that she is, and I have very little faith in the WWE system, and I think they're going to mess her up like they already have in NXT this year. And those are my closing thoughts. She's fantastic. She's fantastic, though. I can't rave enough about her.
Wonderful main event on a shitty program.
But that wasn't the end of the show.
It wasn't the end of the show?
Oh, come on. Come on.
I thought that was the main event. As soon as I saw her get beat, I said, fuck it, and hit stop.
Oh, my God. You missed the best part of the show.
Okay, what was the rest of the show then?
So Finn Balor shows up to do a promo to talk about what's going on with him. You know, he's the NXT champion, broke his jaw in the match with Kyle O'Reilly. He gets out there, he starts talking. All of a sudden, McAfee and his stable, I don't know if his stable has a name or not, but they come out. And, you know, McAfee's so good on the mic, you almost believe what he's saying.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best tag team in wrestling. You know, he seems convinced. He was almost convincing me.
There must be something to it.
He is fantastic on the mic. He's just great. He's one of the best heels, if not the best heel in the business. It comes natural to him.
Well, now that MJF's moved over into song and dance and the variety shows,
yeah,
Because we ain't going to see McAfee, and he doesn't have to, is the good thing. We ain't going to see him doing fucking song and dances with his opponents. And all. He's into wrestling because he likes wrestling and he wants to be in wrestling. He doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
We won't see him doing that. So he is now the best heel in the business.
He is great. So he's cutting this promo and basically intimidating Balor. And then Balor says, well, I brought some friends with me, and the Undisputed Era music hits. And then, boom, there they are, and they run out. So now you have them brawling with McAfee and his people around ringside. And Adam Cole, you have to see this if you haven't seen it. He kicks McAfee.
Well, obviously I hadn't seen it because I didn't know it happened.
Well, the GIF was going around on Twitter. I mean, I'd almost spoiled it for me before I actually watched it. Adam Cole kicked McAfee right in the face. And McAfee went down, and it looked great. So here they are to save this garbage show, the Undisputed Era.
Well, great. So I sat there for an hour and 57 minutes trying to see some talent, and I finally got so disgusted by what they did to the only real piece of talent, well, one of the only two pieces of talent that I saw, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, that I turned the show off and missed the best part.
This was the thing where I said at the top where my DVR, I'm watching, and I'm like, oh my God, there's only 30 seconds left. What's going on here? And then it got it. It caught the whole thing, and then it cut off. McAfee was great. Undisputed Era, it was nice to see them again. Nice to see real stars on the show. Really good. You should go out of your way to see that.
Well, apparently I'm going to have to now because I deleted this shit.
You got to see the kick. At a minimum, you got to see Adam Cole. Because remember, McAfee knocked Cole out with a kick to the head before their match. Adam Cole kicks him. You have to see this.
Well, Brian, then I have to ask you the question, what in the world is more exciting than watching Wednesday night wrestling? You know what the answer is?
I can think of a number of things.
Watching my crotch hair grow.
That wasn't one of them.
You know why? Because I can get excited about getting the opportunity to shave it with my Manscaped products. Because I can't get excited watching this all friends wrestling or these petite little children, but I can get excited every day that my dick hair is a little bit longer is another day closer to where I'm going to be able to shave it with my Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0. No nicks, no cuts. It's even got an LED light to backlight everything and help you make it just slick and smooth and all manicured and everything. You got the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, helps you whack those nasty weeds in any kind of delicate hole. It could be your nose, it could be your ears. If you're going to put one of these in a hole, they're not going to ask you which hole. They're just going to, the products are going to perform on hair regardless of which orifice that hair is indeed located. And the perfect performance package, the crop preserver, deodorant ball, or ball deodorant instead of deodorant balls. Ball deodorant is what it is. You don't want to get chafed. When they're swinging around, you want the breeze blowing around them. You want a little protection. Maybe you don't know whether you might get company of some kind and don't have time to take a shower, so you got the Crop Mop ball wipes come in a package. You can just stick them in your pocket and you can just clean up on the least little hint of something good might happen. They've got the Foot Duster foot deodorant that can fight odors of the dirtiest feet. I mean, just filthy feet, nasty, dirty feet. They can take care of it. The refined cologne, if you want to smell good everywhere from your nose to your toes. On top of everything, if you get one of these fantastic performance packages, you'll get a free travel bag to put your goods in. I'm talking about the goods from Manscaped, not the goods you already possess. Those are pretty much attached to your body. You can't stick them in a bag. You can try to, but it might be painful. And you also get, we didn't mention this last week, the anti-chafing boxer briefs that holds your package together. All of that, plus 20% off and free shipping with the code JCE at manscaped.com. 20% off free shipping, the travel bag, the boxer briefs. Good Lord, they give probably one of the best deals that we advertise here on the program. They practically send you this shit and make you take it for nothing. Manscaped.com. If you want to get excited on Wednesdays, watch your ball hair grow.
All right. Well, where do we go from here?
Well, before we go to the other channel, the other side of the street, we got to address this, because now apparently Uncle Dave is pissed at us again. And I don't even have all the details on this, because I just found out right before we started to record this. I've had a busy day, but apparently, and I told you to look some stuff up and see if we can get to the bottom of this, he is offended that we have impugned the integrity of the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame when we made comments about Twinkle Toes McFingerbang being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yes, Kenny Olivier was...
Well, he wasn't first ballot.
Well, the first time he was...
Third year on the ballot.
What do they call it when he's the first time? Is what, he's been on it before?
He's been on it apparently for a few years, yeah.
Okay, I thought this was his big debut, his big coming out party. He's one of these, what do they call him, a debutante. He's coming out. But he's been on the ballot for a couple years, so some sanity has prevailed until this year. But anyway, we made fun of it because it's something to make fun of, because this guy is not a Hall of Fame wrestler by any stretch of the imagination for anybody that was a fan or affiliated with, in my mind, professional wrestling until about 15 or 20 years ago when everything went sideways, and we made fun of it. And I said, I know we've been talking about crooked elections. The one we just had for president, that was legitimate. Here's where the ballot stuffing went. Here's who did Dave mail ballots to that would Kenny Omega's immediate family, maybe, his Girl Scout group that sells him Girl Scout cookies door to door. Who got these ballots that would vote for this idiot? And we made a lot of fun of it. And apparently Dave is upset. Did I summarize this situation correctly?
I think so. And because we heard about this and then you told me to look into it. And I heard Dave on his show talking about it at length. And then I saw various things that he posted on his board about it. And a few things on Twitter. I actually just responded before we started recording to one of them.
Well, what is his main bone of contention? Because if he's that upset that we've impugned the honor of his election, we understand from the cybersecurity people at Wrestling Observer newsletter that it was the most secure election they've ever had. But if I apologize for saying that he stuffed the ballot box, I guess just basically, since he picks who he sends a ballot to, I guess it just worked out that his favorite wrestler made it in this year, I guess.
It appears there are several things in the segment we did on the drive-thru that bothered him. Now, the segment we did was on episode 166, this past Monday. It was approximately 11 minutes and 9 seconds in length.
Well, we're not going to play it. What's his main? We're not going to play the whole thing, but should we listen again to something we said? Is there some other thing that we've assaulted his senses on?
I did pull something because it relates to this. Again, there were several different things he said, and I think they're all worth addressing one at a time.
Well, let's try.
And let me just say, I like Dave. I don't have a problem with Dave. Obviously, it seems like he has a little bit of a problem with me because
I used to like Dave.
I know, but my point is, me and you don't exactly, because we're friends, we don't feel the same way about everyone. I'm just trying to point out.
No, because he hadn't been picking at you for the past 2 years, saying ridiculous, stupid things.
The first thing that bothered him was the idea that you would insinuate that he was packing the vote for people that would vote for Omega. Now, listening back to the clip as I did, you were joking. I thought it was pretty clear that you weren't being serious when you said, do you think Dave is sending more ballots out? I even said on that recording, I don't think he's doing that.
Well, and as a matter of fact, here's another thing. Apparently, old Dave has lost his sense of humor, except for when you're making fun of wrestling instead of making fun of wrestlers he likes. The only thing he finds funny is when you actually make fun of wrestling these days.
Another thing that Dave said in the midst of that, and this is a brief thing I'll address, but when complaining about the way we discussed the question, and again, we received somewhere over 100 emails and tweets
Oh, God, that was
within
just
a day.
That was just to the drive-thru or whatever. My Twitter was lit up. What do you think about this? They've
Right.
gone crazy. This guy in the Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah.
And every version of that, some people go too far, but every version is, what does Jim think of Kenny Omega going into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame? One of Dave's things was this. I have to admit, I did find this funny. Why didn't they talk about El Medico? I have to be honest, not one email came in asking us to talk about Medico Assassino.
Well, no, besides that, I've never seen El Medico. I've seen a few film clips, but it's not like I studied El Medico's career. He died before I was born. He's from another country of which my history is not as good as it is of the United States, and that wasn't the topic that we were being asked about. But we should have talked about him instead of making fun of Dave's favorite wrestlers, what you're saying.
The other two things that seem to really bother him, and again, it bothered him. I mean, he basically said that you're a liar.
What did I lie about?
And at one point he said, I have no balls for not calling you out on it. And by the way, I've got balls, and they're big, and they're beautiful, and they're sponsored by Manscaped.
That's exactly right. All of our balls are taken care of.
But one of the other problems, I guess, because again, I listened back to the clip, was when you spoke about who voted for Omega, you said clearly none of the historians would have. And then later on in the clip, when
I said I find it, I believe, the way I remember it is I find it very hard to believe that either a serious historian or a retired wrestler would vote for this guy to be in the Hall of Fame, is what I said.
And later on in that conversation, I was talking about how I thought, and it goes into a discussion I had on my 605 shows, where I had voters from across the world, New Zealand, Japan, England, different provinces in Canada, and of course the United States, different voters discussing it, and the topic comes up over and over about the body that's actually doing the voting, and how intelligent they truly are towards whether it's wrestling history or what's actually happening in wrestling. And I brought up the idea that, although I'm not besmirching the man at all, it seems weird to me that Larry Madison came in first on the ballot amongst the other historians. And then I listed off some of the names that he came in above, being first. And one of the names I didn't list was Kenny Omega. And I have to be honest, I'll take the blame from Dave for this. I didn't notice his name as I was reading down the list of various people that I was just shooting off at you.
So he's mad because the historians actually did vote for Kenny Omega.
Well, no, he's mad that I didn't. Apparently,
and you did. Well, no, and you didn't bring it up.
Apparently, I was supposed to correct you when you said it earlier, which I hadn't noticed by that point in time. And then when I was going through the list,
so where did he come in the historians' listing?
Hold on, let me pull this up. Kenny Omega came in 8th amongst historians.
We don't know who the historians are.
No,
where they got their historian credibility.
Like I said, I just had a bunch of serious historians on 605.
Go ahead, finish.
There are a lot of serious wrestling historians out there who study this, who care about this. In one case, Al Getz, who's been on this show, literally on his own dime, travels around the country, searching for results that no one else has, finds a way to apply them with analytics and a new way to do research. Everyone's a serious historian who was on the show. So there are serious historians out there.
Which ones of them voted for Kenny Olivier?
I don't know. I'll be honest.
Nobody would admit it. Sort of like a Trump voter.
Well, no.
People don't want to admit it in public.
I didn't know in advance, but the people who were on my show, Kurt Brown voted for Omega last year, but not this year. But no one else voted for Kenny Omega, including Fumi Saito, which that was actually a very interesting discussion people should check out. Just what a Japanese reporter, who a lot of people know and respect, what he thinks about Kenny Omega going in this year, because so much of it, he was on the Japanese ballot. So, I mean, really what we're evaluating for is his career in Japan, much more than anything else. And I think a lot of people can learn something from that conversation. There's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Wait a minute. Where did he place the other category that I mentioned? The retired wrestlers, people that might still have some respect for this industry. Where did he place there?
On historians, he's 8th. Reporters, he's 1st.
Well, we know who the reporters, who their scoutmaster is, so that's explicable.
Retired wrestlers or office, he is not listed, so I don't think he... I'm just trying to make sure. I don't want Dave to get mad at me again because I missed this. I don't see him on this list. Active wrestlers in office came in 7th.
Not on the retired wrestler list.
No.
I predictified that. I can't, like I said, I can't believe any retired wrestler that still probably has some respect for the business would indict this guy induct him into the Hall of Fame.
The other big thing that bothered Dave,
there's more. Dave's got more problems.
I have to admit, and I've defended Dave when you've gone overboard at times, and I've been,
I never go overboard.
I've been pretty vocal when I disagree with you on something or the way you handle something. Anyone who listens to the show knows that. But in this case, I don't know what the hell's wrong with Dave. He got mad, and I had to go back and check this, because when Chris Benoit, the vote to take him out of the Hall of Fame, he got into the Hall of Fame, and then there was a vote, I forget if it was a year or 2 years after he murdered his family, there was a vote whether or not to take him out of the Hall of Fame. It didn't pass. He stayed in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He thought that I should have called you. I'm not even sure. He thought that you should have spoken up and said that you apparently wrote a letter to him at that time, whatever it was, 2007, 2008, vociferously defending Chris Benoit staying in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, now that you mentioned that, I remember doing that because
I didn't know about that. I didn't know anything about that until you just.
Yeah, well, because my viewpoint was I don't believe that the Chris Benoit that we all knew personally as a friend or a coworker, and that all the fans looked up to as a great wrestler, should be stricken from history because the guy got a combination of brain damage and or mental illness through, whether it was through steroids or being whacked in the head umpteen times or whatever the fuck. Everybody who was close to the situation said that he turned into a completely different person, and that person didn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but the person that got voted in did. Because it was, when someone even does something that heinous, but it's a product not of their right mind, but mental illness, does that mean that nothing they did in life before that was valid or was still as good because of something they did that wasn't them? I'm sorry, but he was brain damage. It's like if one of the service people that's blown up in fucking combat and gets brain damage and comes back and as a different person does things to themselves or other people as they sometimes do, does that mean that it's their fault? They didn't ask for that fucking brain damage. Chris Benoit took a lot of fucking blows to the brain and all kinds of shit. He didn't ask for brain damage, but he facilitated it. But I still don't believe he should be penalized for it. But anyway, that's what that was. But we didn't go into that.
No, we didn't.
Because we were fucking joking about Twinkle Toes McFingerbang getting elected into any wrestling Hall of Fame. We weren't going to take a 20-minute side trip down debating whether Chris Benoit is a horrible person or not.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. I'll just say, I don't agree with you on this kind of topic. And I'll say this, if Benoit wasn't elected when he was, if Benoit was on the ballot 4 years later, he would never have gotten in because.
Oh, no, and I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with you there. Yes.
And I also think if that vote.
But because he was voted in, that shows that people judge just based on his contributions to wrestling that he should be in a Hall of Fame.
Well, here's another thing to think about, because this came up on my show.
Yeah, Donald Trump's in the WWE Hall of Fame. He ought to be taken out.
Let's not compare the Observer Hall of Fame to the WWE Hall of Fame.
I don't know if we're talking about either one of them, but go ahead.
If that vote to rescind Chris Benoit's election to the Hall of Fame happened now instead of then, I think he would absolutely be out.
Probably because more time has elapsed for people to tell the horrible story of what he did last rather than still being shocked because of all the people who knew him and loved him and respected him.
So again, Dave's whole thing, and there was a lot there. The El Medico thing was the least of it. I just got a kick out of that because it was like, literally every email was about Omega. And then we should have talked about
They didn't talk about El Medico.
Yeah. And by the way, everyone, look into El Medico Assassino, a fascinating career and a truly deserved Hall of Famer. But the big things that bothered him were you saying that he was stuffing the ballots to get Omega in. And again, I thought it was pretty clear that you were being a little silly there. I didn't take that seriously, like you were putting out a proposal that it really happened. Dave got very offended by that, whether it's because you went after the integrity of the Hall of Fame or whatever, I don't know. The other two things were that I didn't point out to you, and he's certain, from what I saw, he's certain that I knew Omega finished 8th on the historians list.
Well, because that's all you did beforehand was look to see where he placed in every list, because that's all you cared about.
I hadn't noticed, and I missed it when I was reading off the names. So if I get blamed for that, I will gladly take the blame. But the other big thing was that when the Benoit thing came up, you had an opportunity. When I said that I thought he should be out, you had the opportunity right there to jump in and say you defended it. Now, I want to play this audio.
Well, it is, I mentioned, and go off a 20-minute different discussion when we were jacking around about some goof getting elected in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
So after I heard that from Dave, I said, I got to go back and listen to this clip. I don't remember being anything that would get him this offended.
Inflammatory. Was it inflammatory?
I don't think so, quite frankly. And very often I end up defending his side on things on these clips. So I went back and listened. And again, the clip's 11 minutes and 9 seconds. And we record a lot, and I record a lot. So I don't remember every specific thing, but I was waiting for the Benoit talk. Like, okay, where is this missed moment where we could have had this deep talk about Chris Benoit? I found approximately where it is. This is the end of the clip. Again, the clip is 11 minutes, 9 seconds. This is 9 minutes and 47 seconds into the clip. So less than a minute and a half left. I'm going to play this, and we'll talk about it on the other side, but this apparently is the missed moment where we could have had this big reveal that you wrote this letter about Chris Benoit. Hold on, here's the audio.
But I refuse to believe that any serious, credible wrestling historian or any serious, credible retired wrestler, because you'd have to be near 50 at least by that point, would not be offended by this guy's whole presentation, pretty much. So that's just me.
And again, I look at it from the other way. Good or bad, he's in the middle of his career. You can't look at his entire body of work right now because we're really just looking at a very short period of time where he was elevated to main events in New Japan from that point forward. I don't think there should be people on the ballot while they're actively working. And I get it. No one retires. Jack Briscoe retired. I mean, no one retires. But I think.
And hey, if they've elected him now, what happens if he gets caught with Riho playing with his Sega?
Oh, will you stop it?
And then there's a big scandal, and then they've got to have a special recall to see whether he's voted out of it or not.
I am going to guess they're not going to catch him with Riho playing their Sega or whatever that connotation is supposed to really mean. But secondly, hey, look, the Observer Hall of Fame voters didn't vote Chris Benoit out when they had that option.
Well, I've still got faith in Omega.
And that was it. Approximately.
That was it?
The last 30 seconds, 25 seconds of that clip were the talk about a potential recall vote. In the midst of the joking around about Kenny and Riho causing a recall vote. Apparently at that moment, that was the opportunity you had to let me know that you actually, at the time, thought Chris Benoit should have stayed in. I couldn't believe, when I went back and listened, I said, that was it? What the hell? And it just made me, it made me realize, and bear with me for a second, you may not agree to everything I say, but you and Dave have a lot in common. There are big differences. There are big differences, but you guys have a lot in common. And both of you guys have a problem when someone has a different wrestling worldview than you. You both
not when it makes any sense.
You guys both, in different ways, in very, very different ways, will let people know when they have a very different point of view than what you have, what you think of them. But the other thing is, Omega.
But wait a minute, but Dave used to have a very different opinion, apparently, of wrestling because he used to take the piss out of all the same shit that we took the piss out of. But at least I'm consistent. He changes his shit.
And the other thing is, you guys were always friends. And I personally don't like the fact that your relationship got to this point. And I think both sides have done things wrong. And I think for anyone who just says it's just Jim Cornette, you haven't been paying attention. Dave absolutely went out of his way to needle you over and over and over again. He
wouldn't leave it alone. And it was constant, and it was always about these three clowns, the two brothers, Pieface and Balding, and Twinkle Toes. And it's not like I'm the Lone Ranger with this opinion. You see Twitter, you see the internet, you see the massive amounts of people who do not watch their program. They all think it's a big fucking joke. And they think these guys are a big joke because these guys present themselves as a big joke. And why Dave, at the expense of his credibility with everybody he's known for 40 years, has to run down this road with Twinkle Toes and the Sugar Hill Gang, I have no fucking clue.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, even more than the Bucks. In this situation, it's purely Omega. I don't know if Dave would have this problem if it was anyone other than Omega that you were talking about here.
And
you wouldn't have this problem if it was anyone other than Omega here.
He didn't even name one of his moves after Dave, like the Goofies did. The middle-aged Bucks. They did everything to get those stars.
And the only other thing I'll say is, and anyone can go check out the clip. It's on YouTube. Jim Cornette on Kenny Omega being voted into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame.
And see if it's inflammatory.
But you can't get mad if someone doesn't talk about what you want them to talk about and say what you want them to say.
Or didn't even bother we didn't even think about bothering to talk about what he was thinking we should talk about.
Until he brought up that issue, I was surprised when he brought the thing up. I was like, what's he talking about? When did we talk about Benoit? And it was me that brought it up in the last 25 seconds of the clip while you were in the middle of your joke about Kenny and Rio. But we don't get to decide what other people should talk about. And I mean, that's the part that kind of got me, like when Dave writes stuff in the Observer, there are times he leaves stuff out. Should I get mad about it? When he did the Rocky Johnson bio, I didn't see anything in there about Rocky getting busted for rape or Rocky getting busted for asking a 14-year-old girl to play strip poker with him or Rocky cheating people out of money all over the world, or Rocky screwing Scott Teal, or Rocky getting in trouble in OVW for his behavior with women. None of this was in that bio. Should I just say, okay, he didn't think it was important to put it in there, or should I be like, how dare he not put it in there? And that's on my mind.
Just an example off the top of your head.
Well, it is because we just did the Observer Hall of Fame specials of 605, and that was one of the topics, is how do you address a wrestler's outside of the ring issues? Rocky Johnson finished really well on the ballot, all things considered. And I said, I can't vote for Rocky Johnson. He's disqualified to me. Rape and murder. Those are two things disqualify you from me voting for you.
By the way, that's why I never voted for Jimmy Snuka and told Dave that. Because we already knew what happened there, and I just couldn't see it. And it wasn't like it was a sudden thing, totally uncharacteristic and boom, flamed out. It was an ongoing pattern of things. So, but that wasn't applicable to the discussion we were having about Twinkle Toes either, which is why we didn't talk about it. Poor Uncle Dave. You think he needs a dog?
No,
if he bought a dog and named it Clue, then he'd have one.
I mean, again, I like Dave. I don't, obviously he's not very happy with me because of my involvement with this clip. From what I heard him say and from what I read that he said, I think he went a little bit overboard and he made it a lot more dramatic than it was. I mean, go listen to the clip. Go listen to the clip. He's mad that I didn't bring up that Omega finished 8th on the list. I think it was 8th. Was it 8th? It was 8th. 8th on the list of historians, which I'll take the blame for. I missed that. I'll take the blame. Shame upon you. I didn't know that was a reason to get ripped. And we didn't talk about the Benoit thing. And your joke about stuffing the ballots went over his head, or he got very sensitive to it. And I understand. Look, it's his Hall of Fame. At the end of the day, it's his Hall of Fame. He picked the first class. He picks who votes on it. He picks who gets on the ballot. He manages it. It represents him in his newsletter. I understand.
His favorite wrestler got in.
And I understand being sensitive to any criticism for it, or criticism of it, I should say. But go listen to that clip. The way he reacted to that, I got to say, that's
all right.
Ridiculous.
Calm down now.
Ridiculous.
Easy boy. You know the shame of it all? According to Uncle Dave, you have no balls. According to Jerichovid, I have no soul. We're just a couple of soulless, ballless motherfuckers.
Yeah,
here.
call out Jericho. He keeps referring to you as being like Trump. That's what made me write to him earlier. I said, it's ridiculous you saying that he's like Trump when you email him about how much you love his political commentaries and thanking him for it. He calls you like Trump. Call out Jericho. Call out Jericho.
By the way, wouldn't you know who won the pony? One of those Dakotas is now the center of the universe for COVID.
Yeah, the one that had the motorcycle rally that Chris Jericho's band played at. Call out Jericho for donating more money to Trump than he did to Jim Valley.
Whoa! Call
out Jericho. Call out the Young Bucks. Are they birthers?
Well, you know the answer to that question.
You don't get to decide. I mean, that's the thing that got me. It was just, he got so offended that we didn't talk about exactly what he wanted us to talk about, the way he wanted us to talk about it. And I don't know. I don't want to get too worked up, but everyone can play that game. Everyone can point the finger.
Has left the barn, cowboy.
Everyone can point the finger and say, you didn't talk about this. Why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you talk about this? I mean, just, it's silly. But call out Jericho. Instead of calling Jim Trump, saying he's like Trump, and in doing that, you're acting like Trump, actually, all things considered.
Yes, he is.
But instead of doing that, call out Jericho. He actually supports Trump. He actually wrote All Lives Matter. He's your buddy. Call him out. I'll wait.
I bet you he won't. You want to take that bet?
Aha!
Aha!
I see where you're going. I'm trying to, in my head, picture, where was he trying to transition to before that we got here now?
In your divine and borderline mystical way, you have discovered that I am telling everybody that if you want to bet on the exact moment when Uncle Dave's brains turn to jelly and we take him over to the home and he's sipping soup through a straw, folks, go to MyBookie because they'll take a bet on anything. Whether it's late fall college ball, the NBA bubble, UFC Fight Island, Turkey Day's right around the corner. You can feast on some NFL action, odds boosts, lightning deals, free bets all season long. Whether you're a first-timer or you've been playing with MyBookie for years, there's no shortage of value to be found in the thousands of game lines, unique prop bets, and contests that they come up with every single week. I'll tell you, folks, right now you can sign up or get reloaded. I always like that term, get reloaded. I was loaded once, and then I got reloaded. You can make your bet and get paid. They've even got a full-fledged casino platform with all the classic table, slot, and card games. And the best part is, at MyBookie, the doors never close, and you don't have some old woman from Topeka with a cigarette hanging off of her lip sitting there next to you either, having a look at that wart with a hair sticking out of it, and all you can think of is mole, 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 mole. That's what that woman looks like, and the smell of cheap perfume turns your stomach. But not with MyBookie, because you're in your own home. Make the right play and sign up today at MyBookie, and when you do, use promo code JCE to get your deposit matched halfway all the way up to $1,000. You put in $200, they give you an extra $100. You put in $400, they give you an extra $2. You see where this is going. Free betting money. That's right. We give away free money here on the program. It's winning season at MyBookie. Come join the fun and win some cash while you're at it with promo code JCE. I bet you.
That's right.
What the hell are you doing this week? And then let's introduce this brand new theme song we've got, which maybe Uncle Dave hadn't heard this yet. We just apologized to him for accusing him of stuffing the ballot box and packing the election. But when he said, here's this new song we've got coming up.
And let me just say, I don't think he did. I think, and this issue came up on my show.
I think he just naturally associates with a bunch of people that think that Twinkle Toes McFingerbang ought to be in a Hall of Fame.
It's not, see, again, it's not who he associates with, it's who gets a ballot and how they think about things and what they see the world as being. I just did a show, and that was one of the big topics and it wasn't even about Omega in this sense, but who's getting a ballot that so many clear-cut, should have been in the first-class Hall of Famers don't get the consideration that some of these other guys get. But anyway, another action-packed week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all shows on Twitter at Superpodcasts or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few news and notes. Want to remind everyone to follow the Wrestling News Archive on Twitter at Wrestling News AV or on Facebook, facebook.com/Wrestling News AV for Arcadian Vanguard. We are posting various things from the archives of Wrestling News, which incorporates Wrestling Review, Wrestling Monthly, Ring Wrestling, of course, Wrestling News, and every single program for the AWA, the WWF, Mid-South Wrestling, Southwest Wrestling. So many more promotions I'm running out.
You're running out of them.
That's right. Los Angeles Wrestling, and much more, including all the Norm Keitzer correspondents. We're posting various things. Check it out. Every day cool stuff goes up. That's Wrestling News AV on Twitter. Also want to make mention of the latest episode of Breaking Kayfabe with Baldwin and Barry. The boys talk with Olympic strongman Ken Patera. Check it out today at baldwinpod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcast. Also want to remind everyone, John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight then and now on Patreon at patreon.com/Arezzi. You get access to the full, complete episodes of every episode we review. If you're a classic wrestling fan and you enjoy wrestling from 30 years ago, this is a chance to hear more than what we review on the show. You get to hear all the original phone calls, all the original commercials, and all of the original wrestling news as it happened from WCW, or at that point, the NWA still. The NWA hadn't said, stop calling yourselves the NWA yet. The WWF, and so much more, including Herb Abrams' UWF, patreon.com/Arezzi. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership!
Put me through to the Pentagon!
Yeah.
That's a new one. You'd never played that one before.
It's the last button.
You've had that there the whole time? You've never played it?
I've had it there the whole time. I never thought to hit it.
Well, the latest 2 episodes are up right now. Our 2-part look at the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. Who was on the ballot? Who got in? What do we think about the future? Well, will you calm down for a second? No snide remarks here. But a serious talk of wrestling history. If you are a nerd for wrestling history, these 2 episodes will be for you. Roundtable panel discussions with voters from across the world, including Fumi Saito in Japan, Steve Ogilvie in New Zealand, Alan Blackstock in England. We got voters from Canada. We got voters from all across America. This is fun for anyone who loves hearing some classic wrestling talk and is curious about the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. Check it out today at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership!
Yeah.
You think we're going to get ballots next year?
I have a feeling not. Because I didn't send mine in anyway.
I sent mine in.
Because he can piss up a rope.
He may be mad at me.
Anyway, introduction now to the main event on the program where we talk about what happened on their Wednesday night exhibition. And thank you, Einar. I love that song. We apologize to the estate of Mott the Hoople.
Actually,
all right. Huh?
Actually, David Bowie wrote that song.
Well, Bowie wrote it, but Mott the Hoople recorded it.
Well, he recorded it too, but their recording was the more famous one.
Well, yeah, well, you don't have to goddamn just be right all the time, you know. Anyway, all right, I'm getting tired. Let's get into this.
Let's do it.
All Friends Wrestling. The first match on the program was the team of Top Flight versus the Middle-Aged Bucks. And they did something right here. They did a package about Top Flight, trying to familiarize the viewers with them, what we say they all ought to do, instead of these guys, as Jim Herd said one time, just dropping in out of a helicopter. The problem I have is with the logic here. They had Top Flight saying that they sent a tape to the Young Bucks and as an audition tape, and were so thrilled when they got emailed back by the same people they're about to fight. And this is this weird gray area where they're executive vice presidents and acknowledged as such, but they're also wrestlers. So they're bringing in their own competition, which is never leads to a conflict of interest. But they also portray these guys. This was the phrase they actually said these words. Growing up, we watched the Young Bucks. Has it come to this point now where anybody is so young that they grew up watching the Young Bucks? I guess. And if you were 10 years ago and you were watching the Young Bucks, why would you give a shit? But anyway, they were thrilled. Everybody is. They sent a tape in. And the EVPs that they're about to wrestle on this show got them emailed back. So apparently we've established it's open ring night at a wrestling comedy club. And seeing the highlights, I know why the Bucks liked them. It was all indie matches. And I saw one wrestling move, a drop kick. And everything else was flips and dives. So when they had the match, it was like watching the Young Bucks wrestle the Young Bucks. Constant rolling and spinning and flipping and cartwheeling till you couldn't tell who was doing what. The bigger brother in Top Flight looks good. They're both very athletic. The bigger brother looks good.
When you say bigger brother, you mean the taller one?
He looked much heavier to me, much thicker in the upper body.
Okay.
Whichever the one that weighs the most brother is. How's that? That's the thing is, if you got any of these guys in a good training program, even the smaller guy, the smaller brother could be a tag team guy, whatever the fuck. But they learn on the independents. They look up to these fucking backyard fucks, and they turn out to work and do just shit just like them. If they were in a reputable school, whether it's the OVW program or whether it's Les Thatcher back in the day or whether it's Dr. Tom Pritchard right now or whatever, and learned how to wrestle and then combined the athleticism, that'd be great. But what this is the last thing that we need is the Bucks having somebody else to do this tomfoolery with. There's no baby faces. There's no heels. There's no effects from the moves. There's no basics. There's no structure to the match. There's no heat and comeback. No semblance of a contest. It's overly choreographed constant motion for no reason over and over and over. And it's wrestling that teenagers do on a trampoline in the yard. It's not saying it doesn't take athletic ability. But it's not only not what this is, but it ain't going to get you very far. Except it got him on TV because of Mark's, got a lot of money is running the show. But it's not going to get you too far as far as being a quality marketable talent, and it's not going to extend your career any. So that's what I thought about this match. I don't mean to tear these kids up. They're doing what they've been taught wrestling's supposed to be. And it's the problem with the fucking Pieface and his brother Balding that they're the kind of people that teach these kids that this is what wrestling's supposed to be. And once they learn these bad habits, they can't unlearn them. And then they get pigeonholed, and every time somebody sees them, they go, this other fucking gymnast. There you go. What do you think?
About the match or what you just said?
Either.
I thought the match was all right. I thought they were impressive. I thought the video package before the match was really good. I agree with you. I hated the whole premise of it, which was we want to work there, so we got in touch with the Bucks, who you got to remember are not just the tag team champions, but also executives of the company. And now we're going to wrestle them. And then after the match, when they get attacked, and then the Bucks save them and they shake their hand.
Yeah.
Again, having the Bucks and Omega and Cody as EVPs, good or bad, that's a whole nother discussion. Presenting that as part of the show on air, I think, has been a mistake from day one. It shouldn't be these guys come and they have special privileges above the other wrestlers. It should be their wrestlers on the roster, and there's some matchmaker or just some power behind the scenes that actually runs things. I hate the idea that, he's an EVP, he could do this. There's no point to doing that on the air, except fluffing your ego, to be honest. They
could be sympathetic to the wrestler's cause and announce publicly that 2 or 3 of the veteran wrestlers are appointed to as the players board or whatever to blah, 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 and make sure that we treat wrestlers with respect here, and that's good PR. Not fucking actually goddamn making them executive vice presidents and telling people in public while they're on the goddamn television wrestling. But apparently that wasn't retained along with other things that might or might not have ever been said. Anyway, then the Inner Circle shows up in Las Vegas. So they really did go to Las Vegas in the middle of a pandemic to do phony shit parodying a bad movie.
I called it.
You called it. And I don't even need to talk about they've MJF and Jericho mug over their fucking just chewing the scenery up like, as I've mentioned before, oversized canned hams. Now Jericho's brought MJF along into that with him. They mugged over the alcohol. Conan makes a guest shot. They do a bunch of fake shit. They interact with each other in fake, contrived, and obviously set up ways. It's neither real nor funny. It's fake and stupid. And they're doing a parody of a movie. These are the most fun-loving madcap heels. Boy, I just love whenever in history did the fans say, boy, I love when those heels come on the screen because they're so funny and they make me laugh and they have so much fun doing these things. When has that ever been a thing that anybody ever said? Ever. The fuck? And then they promoted another of their videos where they get somebody to do a video about how great they all are. And the Bucks actually say, we said we were going to start this wrestling thing, and we told all our friends to come with us. Like they were going to Baskin Robbins to get ice cream. Hey, Dad, can all our friends come? And they try so hard on these videos to present the product as something serious. And then in the product, they actually, all they do is bullshit that looks like they're making it up on the spot to fucking ass off. But the videos are supposed to be real dramatic and serious. I'm skipping ahead here, but it was just video. They do the first half of the Inner Circle thing in Vegas. Then they do the video on how great AEW is. And then Moxley, their fucking champion, pops up doing a promo from a neon purple toilet stall. And he does such a great promo, and it's so believable that he believes what he's saying and that he's well-spoken and that he has good material and everything. And then he goes out and has matches with thumbtacks and barbed wire baseball bats and kills any semblance of believability that his good promo and his delivery might build up. So again, why? They do comedy gaga and then do packages to try to make it serious. They talk seriously and then go out and have blatantly phony bullshit matches without even trying to make people believe in it. I'm so confused. Your comments on any of these segments?
Well, the Jericho Vegas stuff is exactly what I thought it would be. And
you called it.
But beyond just them being there, it's exactly what I thought it would be. And I don't think it's creative to just copy stuff from a movie because it's wrestling. Like, oh, it's not a movie, it's wrestling, so we can take what the movie did. Not good, a waste of television time because it didn't really do anything to further anything that matters, and a waste of money, but like you said last time for the Matt Hardy. I don't think
they spent that much money, and they go in there and they're in Las Vegas in the middle of a
pandemic. They flew them there. They flew all those guys there.
To just do stupid shit that's not funny and or original.
Well, that's the thing. And it's like the Matt Hardy segment we reviewed a few weeks ago. I have a feeling, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling there may have been a guy there in a hoodie very excited about the whole thing. And until that guy gets tired of it, this is the kind of crap we're going to keep seeing. But
did you see the part where Wardlow and Hager have the contest beating people up in the bar where they just snatch people and punch them and there's nothing ever done about it and nobody's ever...
Because it's all just goofy and fun.
They couldn't even do a bar fight like Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch and The Wrestler, right? It looked like a pretty good bar fight. They just have to do just silliness, fake silliness.
Yeah, because it became not the Inner Circle or in Vegas and we're capturing all their antics. It became the Inner Circle in Vegas and they're making a movie. And these are all the really bad scenes from that movie. Really bad. They have blown it with MJF. He's young. He could potentially get it back.
Well, should we come back to the next segment, or should we jump ahead to the next segment? Because they had an Elvis impersonator.
Yes, that's right.
On the next segment.
Well, you saw Conan in the first one, right? He smoked everyone out.
I mentioned Conan.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Bisque. Yeah, see, I knew you'd get that. That's one of me and Stacy's inside lines. Everybody was pretending to be drunk after the bar thing, and they drank the Everclear and a blah, 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 and they were all getting fake sick. And then they wake up after they say, I want to howl, and they're on the rooftop. And then they wake up the next morning, apparently. Jericho's in bed with the Elvis impersonator. This, even again, they couldn't even try to make this good. It's obviously fake because there's a camera in every room when they wake up suddenly. Why didn't the cameraman say, hey, you ought to wake up now? Sammy Guevara's in the fountain. Sammy had written on Sharpie all over his face. Santana's in the lobby feeding chickens. Does he have something to do with chickens? I wasn't sure where that came from.
I don't know, but this whole segment was a cock-up.
Don't tell chicken jokes. The whole segment was a cock-up, wasn't it?
Tell chicken jokes. Look at you, Joanne Worley.
Yeah, do not tell chicken jokes. They buried every single one of these guys. They're supposed to be the top heels, and it's just a band of comedians. This whole thing was an embarrassment to the wrestling business, but that's nothing unusual. They've been doing this for weeks now. And Jericho's been doing it, and now he's got MJF on it. Go back and listen to what I was saying 6 months ago, and now I dread seeing what MJF is going to do on this program. I'm like, go back to leaving him off. At least we could wish we were seeing him instead of now we don't want to. So anyway, that was later on in the fucking thing. That was a whole embarrassing thing. But then they come back with a match between Pockets and Pip. I thought we were on NXT here for a minute with Job Guy, Bonanza. I'm not going to watch a mascot for a high school football team wrestle a middle school dropout. So I fast forwarded through Pockets and Pip Sabian. Did I miss anything?
Maybe a little. Like I said before, Orange Cassidy, I've seen his entire act. It's the same act now every single time. This is like the mid-card jobber feud now, the best friends versus the video game nerds.
But he's on this because he's the Money Mark's favorite wrestler. And that's why he's being stuck every week out here in one of these matches.
And by the way, even if you're someone who subscribes to the idea that Orange Cassidy is someone special because of the way the audience reacted to him, putting him out there each and every week, putting him out there in a competitive match with Kip Sabian, you do nothing but defeat that. But anyway, Miro on commentary was all sorts of awful.
Well, I didn't even know he did that, or I might have listened, but
this guy, this guy was the Bulgarian brute. He should never be on commentary ever again. That's the only other note I have about this match.
What he was not being brutish?
He just, when he's using his regular talking voice, he just sounds goofy.
He sounds like a goofy dipshit that plays video games in a pink Minnie Mouse t-shirt.
And again, like everyone's just, no one's taking anything seriously. Everyone's just playing around. He's the best man for their wedding. When's the goddamn wedding already?
I thought, that's right, they were going to have a fucking wedding.
Yeah, I'm sure they still will.
Maybe they've decided to extend the engagement. Let's not extend this program any longer. Did you understand what the fuck was going on with the contract signing? Tony Schiavone's in the ring. They're going to have the contract signing for the title match between Moxley and Olivier. They go through Olivier's entire ridiculous entrance with the music and the introduction and the brooms and the girls and etc. And here comes this Harpo Marx looking twat. And then they play Moxley's music. And of course, he's always out in the parking lot somewhere, out at the airport, has to walk all the way in. But fairly quickly, they notice, oh no, he's not coming out. Something's going on in the back. They go to the camera, runs up, burp. Yeah, this whole segment gave me gas. The sour belches. Don't even edit it out. That was my Moxley Olivier belch. the camera runs back there and there's people. He's laid out unconscious. His blood on his face. There's referees and people. The poor Jerry Lynn has to lend his credibility to this fiasco. They're checking on him. And Doc Sampson. Then we need to get him on a backboard and get an ambulance. Okay. Another unseen attack. And then Twinkle Toes in the ring muttered some shit in an unconvincing way and tried to sign the contract like he wasn't bothered, and he couldn't get the pin to work. And then he got the pin to work and he signed the contract and it was over with. What a stupendous, earth-shaking, what a cataclysmic close to that. He actually got the pin to work and signed the contract. And then they left. What's going on here?
I can't explain it. You know, it hit me the other day. I was talking to someone about something relating to wrestling. It's like it's being booked by someone with ADHD.
That's attention deficit. What's the H?
I think it's hyperactive, maybe?
Well, I think it's being booked by somebody with a deficit of booking ability.
I think it's beyond that. I think it's ADD. I think it's someone who their mind is just jumping from one thing to... That's why we see angles that play out in one night. That's just everything on this show is rushed and makes no sense and is stupid. This was stupid. Omega's entrance was beyond stupid. Even if you want to try to make him into this, badass, which it seems like they're trying to do, where he comes out in the suit and you keep him off the mic and it may work. The girls with the brooms is the stupidest thing ever. Ever. Explain why he's the cleaner. To the audience that's never watched New Japan Pro Wrestling, explain why he's the cleaner.
Not only that, but didn't JR ask Don Callis to do that last week and he couldn't explain it? Nobody can, because it's fucking stupid and nobody understands this goofy, the Japanese pop culture things that register there. It doesn't compute in some other places, even if there's a few English words in there. I don't know what they think a cleaner is over there. Wasn't he supposed to be at one point some kind of video game hired killer or something? That's the cleaner? Well, can somebody stick him in a video game? I mean, literally. Don't put the character Kenny Olivier in a video game. I mean, ball him up and stick him in one of those video game boxes, like the guy on South Park that worked in the Amazon warehouse and accidentally fell in the packaging machine. And they couldn't open the box or elsewise all of his intestines and internal organs would splatter everywhere. So he had to live in the Amazon box. I want him to put Kenny Olivier in a video game box. The next match, the return to action of Pac against the Fishmonger with the Meat Gentleman and the alley cat in the, or she's a bunny. She's a bunny or she's an alley cat? Is she an alley bunny?
Maybe.
They have
Actually, her name is Allie.
She's a bunny. I got to be honest. I don't know. I was still so distracted by the fact that the owner of a company not only aired that Las Vegas bullshit on his own show instead of firing everybody involved in it, but that he spent his own money or his father's money on it too, then aired it. And I was so distracted by that I forgot to watch this fucking match. I was verklempt and it was going on and I forgot to pay any attention. I like Pac. I've always said good things about Pac. He looks like a badass. He's athletic. He can work. He's got a fucking intense look. But at this point, what difference does it make? They get good talent. Either they've got to work with self-trained idiots and can't show what they can really do, like FTR, or they get a believable, incredible vocal talent and a natural heel and turn him into Brian Griffin, MJF, or their god-awful booking puts the stench of grisly death on somebody from day one, even if they've been a star somewhere else, Miro. So even if this match was the second coming of Buddy Rogers and Pat O'Connor, what's the difference? Nothing means anything, but I forgot to watch the match because I spaced out on it, but I saw the finish. Did you see the finish of this match? What did you think of this match first, by the way?
I don't know if it was for the same reasons as you, but I kind of tuned it out. And I like Pac, but the Butcher and the Blade have both been jobbers since they've been in there. I get a kick out of Eddie Kingston on the mic. Eddie Kingston's, anytime he talks, he's great. But this went a while.
Yeah, it did.
I didn't care. You know, that's one of the big problems beyond the bad booking and the ADD booking. One of the biggest problems I think with Dynamite is that every match goes a while.
Yes. Interminably. You need a sundial to time these matches.
So as far as the match, it was, again, I couldn't really get into it. So I can't even say it was all right or it was bad. I didn't care enough to pay close attention. Now, the angle after the match, that was something.
Well, hold on. Let's go to the finish first. Because this is another one of those finishes that I don't care how good the angle was afterwards. I'll tell you why. Here's what happens. Pac gets shot in the corner, right? He's in the turnbuckle. Here comes old Blade running at him. Pac hits Blade with a boot to the face. Blade goes down, lays there face first on the mat, motionless. What does Pac do? Does he go for a cover? No. He turns around, steps out on the apron, climbs up to the top rope. The opponent is laying there, not moving, unconscious. So instead of trying for a pin, he goes to the top rope. Then he stands on the top rope for a count of 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, gets his balance, does the shooting star, right? The backflip into the splash. Shooting star press onto Blade's back because he's laying face first on the mat. What a fucking shooting star press. Bam, hits him. And then grabs a submission hold on him. Instead of trying to fucking roll him over and cover him because the guy should be knocked out. He was already unconscious. Now he's got hit with a splash off the top rope. But then he grabs a submission hold on him. So Blade immediately has to come back to life to be able to fucking tap out. I said, fuck it, I'm done. And I fucking fast forwarded. They were doing some shit with the fucking Lucha Brothers, Felix and Penta and fucking Eddie Kingston, who I like, but I'm sick of all these people. I fast forwarded from there. That finish, somebody had to approve that finish. Somebody didn't think what the fuck that thing was going to look like or how stupid it was. So they did an angle. Was it any good? I don't care. Tell me about it.
No, it really wasn't good. So
I thought it was good. I missed the other thing that was good.
Last week, Rey Fenix wrestles his brother for the second time.
Yes.
First time they had a match, Rey Fenix won. Then he got hurt, so Penta had to take his place in the tournament.
Yes.
Last week they had a match, and all of a sudden they were ripping each other's masks, and it was for no real reason. The intensity had gone up. And then Eddie Kingston gets in there, telling Penta, you don't need your brother, kicks him out of the ring. And Penta kind of just goes with it. So this week, Pac is going at it with the Butcher and the Blade and Kingston after the match, and Rey Fenix comes out to help him. And you have not lived until you've seen Rey Fenix do a run-in and try to help someone. Clearly, this is not his specialty. So now the three heels. I don't know who the fuck the heel is.
Yeah.
The Butcher, the Blade, and Kingston are beating up Phoenix and Pac, and Penta comes out with a chair. And he gets in the ring, and he's standing there with the chair, and he's teasing what he's going to do. And then instead of hitting Kingston or the Butcher away with the chair, he just kind of, I shouldn't even say he chases them away with the chair. He just kind of walks towards them with the chair. So they get out of the ring, and they leave.
Okay. Next. The moment we all couldn't wait to see more of Jane Cargill. And we saw a little bit more of Jane Cargill, very little. Suddenly they go back in the back somewhere, and Brandy's down on the floor. Brandy's arm is in a metal folding chair, and Jane Cargill, like a baby deer on a frozen pond, wearing platform heels, is trying to Pillmanize Brandy's arm in the chair and stomps it once. And then a bunch of other people run in, including old Big Swole, who gets up in Jane Cargill's face and starts giving her the finger pointing, head shaking thing. The heels don't run away. The baby faces don't touch them after they've just been trying to break Brandy's arm. And that was awkward, but I had questions, Brian. The questions immediately flooded my mind. Do you want to hear some of the questions that I had about this?
Sure.
Wasn't Moxley just attacked in the back and laid out by an unseen person 20 minutes before that in this program?
That is correct.
How many times on AEW wrestling are people attacked in the back for no apparent reason and nobody stops it till it's too late? Constantly?
It happens. I mean, the Young Bucks were attacking announcers not too long ago.
Didn't they just do the chair deal, Pillmanizing somebody's limb in the chair to Pieface Buck 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, to the Young Bucks. Yeah.
Does Brandy just have to be on TV, whether there's a reason or not? This was a question that came up in my mind.
I'm going to be honest with you. After last week's show, I was really looking forward to where they're going to go with Jade Cargill and Brandy and this whole thing. And I was let down. I was disappointed that this was what they did.
This was deflating like a fucking frozen fucking jump in a goddamn frozen pond causes shrinkage. And the biggest question now, where is Shaq? They didn't mention Shaq's name, did they, on this program?
Maybe they did on commentary during the Cody match, and I don't remember, but that was another big takeaway. That's a big deal. You get Shaquille O'Neal to do something. The first half of the show, the first 2/3 of the show, if he was mentioned on commentary, went over my head. I didn't hear it.
Well, I figured, and now apparently Jane Cargill has been training to be a wrestler. I thought, okay, they've made a deal with Shaq. Shaq's fucking this girl, and she wants to be in wrestling, or he wants her to be on TV.
I don't think.
Well, yeah, but this has happened millions of times in wrestling in the past, and because that was the only way that I could explain in my mind why anybody would put this girl on television to do that stinky fucking promo, or that she's not ready. She doesn't know what she's doing. And it showed. I figured they're doing this favor, like Joe Pedicino was doing the favor for Olu Oliani, the Nigerian investor, when he found that girl wrestler that he got sweet on, and they were going to try to book her, do something with her, because he was fucking her, and that was keeping him happy. I figured, okay, this girl is fucking Shaq, so to get Shaq, they've got to use this girl, and it's a package deal, and to get the star, they'll do this. Now I find out she's training to be a wrestler. She's probably not even affiliated with Shaq. If this girl ain't fucking Shaq, there's no reason in the world why she ought to be on cable access television, much less national television. So anyway, apparently, all these questions shall remain unanswered, including why they have to do the same fucking thing 2 or 3 times in every show, and why they don't beef up security in the locker room area, because apparently that's where everybody gets hurt. You know what they say, Brian, that old saying, most accidents happen within 5 miles of the home? As soon as I heard that, I fucking moved. Anyway, the next match was for the NWA Women's Championship, Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. Brian, actually, somehow in the middle of all this, a wrestling match broke out. The cheerleaders left the field, and the athletes took over. I was going to say they started the match with the most convincing collar and elbow lockup of the night, but I think it may have been the only one. Because the rest of these Outlaw Mud Show guy goofs don't know how to start a match. They just start running into the ropes and cartwheeling everywhere. These girls actually had a contest. They locked up. They worked nice mat wrestling. They were serious about it. Went through a break, kicked it up a notch in the final moments. Serena, they actually took an apron bump that wasn't stupid. Serena gave Thunder Rosa the spear on the apron. Serena goes right to the floor of her own volition, and Thunder Rosa takes a nice little flat back bump on the apron safe. Why don't they get these two girls to start teaching the training classes? Because apparently they're the only ones that know what the fuck they're doing. This match didn't get old. You didn't get numb to it. You could follow it. You knew what was happening and why. And it looked like a struggle with each other rather than, the Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys Western swing dancing. Then they had to fuck it up somehow with the booking. They sent Reba ringside, and Britt Baker interfered while the referee and everybody was distracted and grabbed Thunder Rosa and gave her some kind of goddamn deal on the ramp. And then ran off, and she rolls in the ring, and Serena, who didn't know what happened, then powerbombed Thunder Rosa, got a 2 count. So she gets hit by the heel with a move on the ramp, and then powerbombed by Serena, and only gets a 2 count. And then within seconds, Thunder Rosa and Serena are both doing reversals and counters and hitting strikes and etc. They just went back to the match they wanted to have, and I don't actually blame them because that was such a stupid interference spot. They were having a good match. It didn't need to be there. They forced it in because of the booker being an amateur. They could have done some shit afterwards, which they did, and it would have got there. They instead of having, after the match, having Thunder Rosa grab Baker and beat the shit out of her, which she did, and blew off any heat that they got with the spot they did that screwed up their match. They could have had Thunder Rosa walking by Britt Baker, and then Britt fucking hammers her and gets some fucking heat, or they could have had a pull apart or whatever. But instead, they put this goddamn thing in because that's going to further the program between the two girls and keep the heat. And then they fucking blow off the heat with Britt Baker afterwards by having Thunder Rosa beat her up anyway. So it was the amateur booker marred the great women's match, but they just went back to their match they were having. Couple of more false finishes and reversals, and Serena hit kind of a Styles Clash kind of thing. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Most professional match, probably of the night. But there you have it. And just overbooking again because they just don't know. They're doing things they've read on the internet rather than things they've actually done and experienced. What'd you think?
I don't think it's just the lack of experience. I think there are probably people in the world who don't have experience booking who could figure out how to do it in a logical way. It was a good match. Can't say anything bad about the match. When Britt Baker showed up at ringside sitting in the seats again.
Well, yeah, then she said an attack and then she's suddenly sitting there.
I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
They just don't think. They do not think. There was a promo with Dork Jobber and Anna Jay. And Dork Jobber yelled his promo at her. And then she, without really looking at him, recited one of her own to the camera. Somebody's a Get Smart fan because she's 99. She's no Barbara Feldon, though, for heaven's sake. How about 69 instead of 99? They should have named her 69. That would have got the AEW heels contention in an uproar. How about they could have called her 68? Give me one and I'll owe you one. That was Nikolai Volkov's favorite joke. He told it in his Russian accent. Did you see that the AEW heels group got mad at JR because when they did the AEW heels plug, he said, I wonder if they have bake sales.
Yeah, I did see that. I'll tell you something. He just does not give a fuck anymore.
Well, no, because it's so fucking stupid. AEW heels for all these women wrestling fans that they've got. But then I feel sorry for JR because he said, somebody blistered him on Twitter. Oh, that's all the women are good for is bake sales. He said, hey, I was making a joke about me being fat. He said it was self-defecating humor. It may have been an autocorrect on the phone, but he got a lot of bad replies off that self-defecating remark. Anyway, Darby Allin was in church, on a church, not in church. He was in it later, but he was sitting on top of it. How the fuck did they get that little cocksucker up there? He was sitting actually on the roof of the church, all the way up on the tippy top of the roof. And then he was walking in the church, and then he set himself on fire. This is one where Stacy was coming through. She was taking Harley out for a walk. I said, okay, you're younger than I am. I said, this guy's got some talent, but the more I see him, the more I dislike him as a person because he really does this shit on purpose rather than it being a gimmick. I said, he skateboards, and he does crazy things. He jumps off bridges now he's in this church, and she watched him set himself on fire, and she said, "So this is Jackass with a budget." I said, "Exactly." And she went to have the dog take a piss. And she did mention, she said, "I'm taller than he is." I said, "Exactly." So let me bring this up. The next match was Cody and Darby Allin against Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, Team Taz. Did you hear the story about Darby Allin sleeping in his car?
I did.
For those of you who have not, he did an interview saying before he was on this most recent pay-per-view, where he's achieved his dream of being in wrestling, etc., he wanted to get he wanted to feel like he used to feel, and he wanted to realize how lucky he was and how happy that he's got this far. So before the pay-per-view, he slept in his car like he did in the old days when he didn't have a house or a home or a bed, to remind himself of how happy he should be. What the fuck? Seriously? What the fuck? I've had a lot of miserable experiences in my life, and I never once wanted to do them again on purpose so that I could remember what they felt like and realize how happy I was when I was laying in a goddamn $250 a night hotel room in a big soft bed, remembering when I used to stay at the Alamo Plaza in Shreveport with the bugs and the fucking rats of 2 and 4 legs. I never once wanted to go back and stay at that Alamo Plaza. I wanted to lay in that $250 a night room and go, it sure is a lot more comfortable than that was. I've had a couple of hernia surgeries. I didn't want to relive them either. What kind of idiot on purpose, when he's got a hotel room being provided for him, now that he has become a success, what kind of idiot has to remind himself of when he wasn't successful by going out and sleeping in his car on purpose? And if I was the owner of that company or the booker or somebody in charge, I would have said, "Hey, you dipshit, we're buying you a fucking hotel room so you can sleep in that bed and show up tomorrow feeling good and have a good match. Don't be all stove up from sleeping in your car because you're an idiot." What do you think?
I mean, he's a goofy guy. I mean, I wasn't as offended as you were, but...
Well, that's just stupid.
It's stupid. And the explanation of it by that announce team is stupid, but it is what it is.
Anyway, Darby Allin and Ricky Starks work well together. I will still say Darby Allin is the one of this bunch that shows the way to be a small flyer and use his speed without it just being stupid-looking gymnastics. It means something. It's a different way of doing it. He doesn't just go whole hog into these cheerleader routines that look so fucking contrived. So he should be the one doing all this shit because he's the one who can get over with it. He's got a natural magnetism and charisma. It's only if you don't know he really is nuts and goofy and stupid, or if you like people like that. That's, he gets heat with me the more I hear about the shit he does on purpose, personally. But anyway, Cage and Cody did some nice pro wrestling. It was going along fairly well. They went to a break. Taz goes to ringside, and they go to the break. Well, of course, when they come back from break, you see during the break, Taz interfered. They always have to do this shit in the break, right? He pulls a leg on Cody, but Arn in the other corner gets mad. Instead of going around after Taz, he grabs a chair and throws it into the ring, and the referee ejects him. That didn't make a lot of sense. If the referee didn't see Taz do his thing, and Arn had got around and got on Taz, that would mean for him to get, but it didn't make Arn look very bright there. As I look at Cage, I would have loved to have had him in OVW for a year or two, not only just me, but working with the guys we had at that time that were experienced at different levels, but had been trained properly from the start. When Danny Davis broke that original class in, whether it's Densmore or Conway or Basham or Damaja, he could be a lot farther along as a talent than he is now because he can do moves, but there's not a lot of psychology and there's not a lot of veteran reaction there because he's just worked with people that just do moves. So sometimes, these guys go where it gets too late for them. They're going to learn. But Cage, he needs developmental or something badly because he's got all that potential, and what a physical beast. But the match, the second part of the match, to me, it fell after all the heat they got on Cody. He just cold tagged Darby with neither heel trying to stop him. Just there was no question that was going to happen. And then they did a bunch of back and forth stuff, a bunch of false finishes, and it kind of fell apart to me because everybody was doing everything. And then they just stopped the pretense of tagging or anybody keeping track of who was legal. It was just guys doing shit. And then finally, they go to the turnbuckles again, and this same shit where they have to help each other up on the turnbuckles, and everybody's cooperating, obviously, not to fall off. And Cage picks Darby Allin up with Darby's help and took forever to set up a big power slam, and it was one of those bumps. Whenever you see a guy's body land in two different stages on a bump, it fucking hurt. It shook you up. And it wasn't a flat bump, it was a bump. 1, 2, 3. Blah. And then the heels start getting the heat afterwards. And here comes wonderful Willie Hobbs with a chair. And he comes in. Didn't we just see a fucking deal with a guy with a chair, and he comes in and then just wonder who's he going to turn on, or is he, or what the fuck? Well, they did the same fucking thing, but this time he really did. He turned on Cody. He picked up the title belt and nails Cody with the title belt. Will Hobbs. Let me ask you some more questions. Isn't he the guy that had the brother that was shot, killed in front of his eyes? Gang violence. They did a package on him. Had a great backstory. Wonderful smile. A baby face, backstory of this young kid trying to make it. They've had him come out and save several baby faces. He's had, one match that I recall on television? Do I recall one match?
I think it may have been more than one match, but I believe that is the backstory. One
match since they've been pushing him.
Look, we watch a lot of these. I don't know.
I know, but what I'm saying, it's like, and then he turned and like, oh my God, the most shocking thing ever. We didn't even know who this guy was 2 months ago. It's not like he's had this long string of matches where all these baby faces have taken him under their wing because he came out to save them, and they teams with one, he teams with another, he has a match, he gets over as a baby face, people believe in him. Then the shocking turn comes. The shocking turn came after he's had a great backstory. He's saved baby faces a couple times with a chair, and he had one match that I remember that he may have won, I think. And what the fuck? It's just meaningless. It's meaningless sound and motion. I rest my case. I don't know what anybody was doing on either one of these shows, but that's what I took away from that tag match. Did I miss anything that brought it up a level in your eyes?
No, I'll say this. A match like this, Cody, Darby Allin, Ricky Starks, who's great, Brian Cage, Taz. I wish this was in the first half hour of the show, because by this point of the show, I was just ready for it to end.
Yeah. Well,
but I would have liked it more if it was earlier in the show.
It would have been better with a better finish.
Everything. AEW. That's like one of the.
Been better with a better.
It's finish. One of the logos of AEW. One of the mottos of AEW. Everything would be better with a better finish.
I got nothing else. I'm disappointed in everybody. I think, as a matter of fact, send Kippelman an email, a memo. I think Jay Sharknado should just erase this whole program we've done here. That was a complete waste of not a Wednesday night because I didn't watch it live, but that was a complete waste of part of my Thursday.
All right.
If I hadn't pissed Uncle Dave off, I wouldn't have enjoyed anything about this week.
You don't enjoy pissing him off.
I do now. Because it's so fucking, goddamn, at this point, it's just so fucking trivial, the shit that he gets pissed off about.
Yeah, I'll say this, what the fuck. Yeah, he just tweeted out, because I'm checking in with Twitter now that we're wrapping up the show. Someone said, I won't even say the insult, just relax, he made a joke. No, he stated something that wasn't true. He said no historians voted for a guy who in fact did extremely well with historians. It didn't say it as comedy. He said it as fact. Also,
wait a minute, did I say that as fact, or didn't we just go back and play? I have a hard time believing.
Well, earlier...
You can't tell me.
Well, that's how you ended the segment. Earlier you said... I don't remember exactly how you said it, but...
I said, come on, that's gotta be bullshit.
Also stated stuff about the balloting that he knows to be untrue. Again, that's the part I can't believe he was focusing on that. Did anyone take you seriously?
He must have overlooked all the uproarious laughter that we were engaging in at the time.
Jesus.
He's lost his mind and his sense of humor. And we've lost our will to live after this program. Let's
good night,
get
Gracie.
off here and do it again. Say goodnight, Gracie. Yes, okay. So next week on the drive-thru is Tuesday, and we're going to talk about Survivor Series and Tully and Magnum. And the following next week's experience will be on Saturday instead of Friday, so we get to eat our turkey on Thursday. And then we'll talk about turkeys on Friday, both of them.
I dare one of you shows to be good.
I double dog dare you.
It's so hard to watch these. And there's only so many ways I could say it sucks when you go, what did you see, Brian? Well, it sucked.
Let's come up with some new synonyms for suck.
Half of these wrestlers suck. The presentation sucks. I'm a wrestling fan. Give me something to watch that I like.
While you're throwing your tantrum, I will close this program out. Folks, we'll be back soon, hopefully with new news on better wrestling. And until then, thank you, fuck you, and oh, God, I'm about to give up.